I'm broadcast.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's Jessie?
She's good. We were running into Dunham, she has to play in a tournament this weekend with a girl from Hiram, being an extra player. She hasn't played for a lot more. The coach doesn't really want them to, some of the freshmen still play.
Now you can search the.
She has a pair of black pants. She's trying to find out. So, I think she called
So she doesn't go travel or any summer?
She plays for White House, so I 18 to 14. That's all she does. And she still hits every week. I do. But that's enough. She doesn't, but they're college matches. She wants to have that break. My fundraiser, I can go in for her.
Yeah, nice year.
Yeah, here you are, so.
I follow, I get on about once every week, it starts and then it gets over to, it's like, I go, all these people from around, go on and just.
They did a really nice article in the paper that they wrote about her. Well, do you know when you do a claim, you have to give it, and then, I guess I didn't realize. You associate player of the week. That was pretty cool.
That's nice. That's great.
She was pretty excited. She did really well.
Okay, ready? I think it's
That's a shirt.
She's playing, but she helped coach. Yep.
That's a
And I gotta go to the Cleveland Clinic tomorrow.
When you put yourself under the gun.
No, she. It's not painted.
okay, we all want to, oh, there it is, okay. We all want to rise to the pledge of allegiance. They keep moving it on us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under recognition of visitors, Karen?
Yeah. I just had, my thoughts are, I've had a couple people talk to me about our pay-to-play fee. And with moving the levy from August to November, with some readjustments and some things that happened through the state, I think it needs to be looked at that some of the people that are your big supporters of the levy are the ones that are suffering from having to pay to play. And I think that needs to be looked at. I do think if you are having some funds that are available, that people should benefit from that, because you have kids in this community, sometimes that's all they have is a sport. And if their parents can't afford that $300, I mean, I know we do fundraising for pay to play, but you know, as far as the fundraising we do, my kids work. They're up at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday mornings, on their weekends, laying anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 yards of mulch. They're wheelbarrowing, not one of them has ever complained. They're working as much as they can to help pay. Every single one of them high school football players came out and helped, at least 2 to 6 times for me. And it was a great success for them, but it's still not enough. And I just think it needs to be looked at. I just don't think, I think that we should, everybody, those kids should benefit from that little bit of money. I mean, I understand there's other things too, but going from 100 to 300 in 1 year, that's a huge jump, huge jump. Or even the middle school, going from 50 to 150. You know, I know you put a $1,000 cap on it, but that's still a huge, if you have 3 kids in the school, at that amount of money, you may pay that $1,000 right now. I think it needs to be looked at, and I think it needs to be adjusted to help reflect some of these kids. Because you have these kids that, if they're in 1 sport, or 2 sports, or 3 sports, and we're going to lose the good athletic kids from this school to other schools. Because they're not going to want to pay. They have open enrollment at other schools. They may only have a $100 pay-to-pay fee. You know, they're going to leave and go somewhere else, because it's just too much for their parents to afford. And that's, you know, I just think it really needs to be looked at. We have kids that are going to get into trouble because they're not in a sport, in some type of controlled atmosphere. There's nothing else to do in this town. You know, really there isn't. We don't live in a community where there's all kinds of action going on. Kids are going to get in trouble, and I just think it needs to be looked at.
Thanks. All right. President's report. I have a note here from Doris Rookie.
You know what, we don't have, I'm sorry, there's roll calls missing.
Oh, it is missing.
And do we need to appoint
We do.
a secretary for tonight?
Can't Todd do it from the beach? Todd's not here tonight, he's on vacation. So, okay, we need to appoint someone to be secretary for tonight. Anybody good at taking notes and keeping track of stuff?
I think
You sure?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to do it? No? It looks like you're right then. I mean, I can do it too, but I probably will mess up if I'm trying to run it and do that at the same time.
We're okay.
I'll keep track too, and together we'll figure it out. Okay.
So we do roll call. Terry,
Here.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Here.
Fletcher,
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Okay, meeting's called to order. Okay, under the president's report. Doris Sharkey, who retired, it says, "Dear Andy and my friends on the board, the lovely little music box school bell is truly delightful. It will be displayed with pride in my home. Thank you so much. Thanks also for the opportunity to be a part of the Waterloo community of educators. Yours truly, Doris Sharkey." So I'm sure she's enjoying her vacation and her retirement. That's all I have. Superintendent's report.
Okay, a few different things tonight. We're going to start off, we have one of our high school science teachers here, Ken Riley. Ken, as I've shared before, Ken's been very involved here with our students in regards to recycling, other efforts of that nature. He was also very instrumental in the grant that we received from Portage County for our land lab area, and we'll be utilizing all of that. Tonight, he's got some ideas to expand upon and mesh right in with that grant we received, what he would like to see happen here for our students and our community. And I thought it would be good if he could come here and do a presentation to share those with you and allow you to answer and ask any questions you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ken.
Any more questions?
No, wherever you're.
Good evening. Thanks for seeing me and allowing me to talk to you. I think this program has the potential to transform the way that we teach students here and transform the community in a positive way, in a way that helps to meet state standards as far as our educational curriculum and helps to make the community better as a whole. So we have a committee of 12 people, and we've met a couple times, and we have a working document. I think you've seen that document, so a lot of this I think is that you've seen before. We called it Sustainability Education and Practice, and we called that because we want to start teaching kids about sustainable initiatives, and we want to start doing things. When I say we, I'm talking about the community, these things we would like to do, we would like to bring to you for consideration. So we'd like to start teaching these things and actually doing them physically within the district. So why sustainability? The earth has limits. There's no disputing that we're limited in fossil fuels and clean water and clean soil. Everything that we have comes from the earth. There are no exceptions. So if we don't start to consider how we're using resources, these resources won't be here for future generations. The goal is we basically want to teach and practice sustainability. We want to show kids how to do it. And we want to have a district that does things in a sustainable manner. And usually these things mean saving money. That's the bottom line. We're trying to figure out how to fund things. Everything in here is funded. There's not asking for any money. It's all taken care of with different grants. We'd like to see the district become waste-free. We're really close to that right now, believe it or not. We do a really good job with recycling. We have the best recycling program maybe in the country. We're close. So we're definitely in Portage County. I've not heard of a better one in Ohio as far as the way we run a recycling program for our environmental science classes. And really, I'd like to get kids outside. I have an environmental science class, and with differing degrees of success, I've had them outside doing different science things. And the grant that we have now, we take that to a different level. We start to tie in math and technology and science in the environmental science classes. The things we currently do, we have a really good recycling program. We did a waste, I'll talk about that more in a minute, but we have the environmental science kids do a study and look at what we're recycling. And we're recycling about 85% of our recycling material out of the district, which is a phenomenal number. You just don't see that number in a public institution. There are a few different ways we get money, and that money goes to a club that I advise, we call it Climate Club, it's our environmental club. And it goes for supplies to that, and it also goes into the general science club fund, so you can buy materials for the environmental science classes as well. So again, we raise about $1,000 a year selling trash, basically. So it's a source of revenue for us. And the energy conservation upgrades, I think you're familiar with those. In the last 3 years, we've done a lot of things to reduce energy usage here. So this is a waste audit that we did, and basically what we did is we had the custodians save their trash for a day. The cafeterias and our wall classrooms. And over the course of a couple of days, environmental science classes went out and put rubber gloves on it, took these up, and separated it and weighed it. What we found is we have about 1,150 pounds of trash every week that could be composted. It doesn't have to go to a landfill. We pay somebody to take that. We could keep it on site, compost it, let it turn into soil. We could sell it, we could use it here as mulch, because there are lots of different things we can do with it. All of them better than shipping it out to landfill. It's something that I really have grown to be averse to, is sending things to landfill. So that's about, we're talking about somewhere around 40,000 pounds of material a year that goes to a landfill that could be composted. So these boxes, to give a little frame of reference, this is the primary school playground, and this is the bus parking lot. So, I don't know, 4 years ago or so, when Megan, I think, Megan was in class, we had that little plot of land right where that we. It was 30 feet by 30 feet. We had that for a couple of years. And it's just really not big enough to do much with. So this spring, we expanded it to the yellow area, which is basically a football field inside. So this is what we have in place now. Hal Timberlake lets us go over here. There's a great little intermittent stream where we do something called primary headwater habitat assessment. Take the kids back there and take the measurements. And in this area, we have a trail in here that the cross-country team uses. They mowed it last year. Bart Bean, I think, did some work on it, cutting it out there. So we have these things in place right now. These trails, all we do here is the custodians, they just mow these paths, so there's no upkeep. And really, there's savings here. They're not mowing all this area, they're saving gas and manpower, whatever else. So these trails are here, out there right now. This trail is here. And the only additional thing we'd like to do is put this trail into this area and this one right here. And I'll talk about this in a minute. We need to get a bridge here. So this is what we like it to be. Basically, I want it to be a metro park. Put some signage out there. We'd like to have a kiosk right here. This is the football ticket booth, the main entrance to the football stadium. And I think this is probably the highest traffic area. So we'd like to get rid of this grass. Put some pervious concrete down. Pervious concrete just lets the water go through. Environmental friendly way to do concrete. Everything that we would do with this, I'd like it to be an educational piece. And so, okay, here's a little bit of pervious concrete. This is why we do it. This is what it's good for. So I think this is a nice place to put it where it's visible. The kiosk will look, I think I like this one best. It's a three-sided kiosk. So we can put educational signage on all three sides, put places to put brochures. Put general information in. And put a map like this. We've all been to a metro park, I'm sure. This costs about $100 to make one of these. The kiosk itself costs about $1,100 and it's all covered within the grant. There would need to be a bridge out there. So the bridge would look something like this. Pretty simple. Not very expensive. I don't know the price on that right now, but the bridge would go. This is the wastewater plant. And again, this is the primary school playground. There's a little intermittent stream here. It's usually dry, but I'd like to put a bridge, like a little bridge right across there, so people could access it, go back here, go back into the woods. These woods are really high quality, there are lots of spring wildflowers that grow out there. This is what the area that we expanded looked like this spring. All the flags are going up. They go out and know a couple trails in there. I just took this picture about 20 minutes ago. We had some rain, but there was some nice flowers in there. And thinking about different kinds of signage, this is a sign that we could do for people on the trails and just use it as education pieces. I have the materials for this right now. This will be a stand that goes outside of the middle school cafeteria. We'll put 4 bird feeders on. My vision is we have kids in there, eat lunch, and they see birds out there and do all kinds of different things in the curriculum to support that. We had students build 5 of these and open their own. We had 5 of these that were built by high school students at Bluebird houses. We put some bat houses out there and expand and do different things with that as well. Something else, so the composting I talked about, the original thought was to put the composting here in this area. And we had some discussions, and maybe there's a better place over by the dumpster. But even if we don't have the whole thing here, I would like to have something here so you can see it. There are windows here at the middle school gym. And, with the composting, if we don't have the whole thing visible, I'd like to have some of it visible so we can say, here's what we're doing this with our trash, this is what it looks like. A lot of people don't know what composting looks like. Ellen Brubacher is on our committee, and she has a Sprouts group. It's young kids group to deal with gardening, so we'd like to put some raised bed gardens, and I think this is a good spot for it. So, for future consideration, again, right out the open, people can see it, see kids doing gardening and putting vegetables in. The compost bins that we have, there's an organization called C, it's Sustainability for Education, Educators and the Environment. They've committed to $1,500 to cover all the costs that we need for materials and start up the composting program. And we have some of these right here. They're just, these slats are movable. They're basically like Lincoln logs. You can put them on the sides of the unit and a little bit more to take them down and compost. So our resources, the Portage County grant was something like $24,000. So we have $3,000 dedicated for signage, and it's plenty to cover what we want to do. I've done the birdhouses for free already, donated. I'm cleaning the dumpster bag, dumpster bag for anything. So if you're into that, you need some material I'll take. So the birdhouses that I wanted, I've already covered, and haven't spent time on that. I think there's opportunity to sell some advertising, the kiosk, and there are definitely other grants out there that we can look for. $17,000 for the grant is used for this. And these are eagerly start doing this, waiting. The cover title of these, we have 13 of these. They're basically, they're like smartphones, really. And they have all kinds of different protocols. You can measure carbon dioxide levels, moisture levels, pH, you name it. You can measure with these devices and kids can see their interaction and make data tables. And this really brings this, it can bring our science curriculum to this, I've heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. This is going to take us there. Just one closer. It's really new. As far as our educational curriculum, I went through the OGT standards, and at every grade level there are at least 12 benchmarks that deal with sustainability, ecology, recycling. And these are direct ties, these are easy. And I think if you look, if you're a little bit creative and talk to the high school math teachers, you can find ways to integrate math into this, and art and shul and the industrial tech classes and everything else. So this is right there in our benchmarks. Instead of having a kid sit there and read about stuff in the book, you take 10 steps and go outside and get them out and see. And you all know that's the best way to do this stuff. You can get them out there doing things. So I think, and these are, in the grant we wrote in that we would have the industrial tech class involved and the graphic class involved, but I think we can pull everything. Instead of doing your laps around the gym, go out and do the lab, cross country and do that. This is a student in the spring who was building on the birdhouse, and a little cedar chest, and we threw that apart. I picked it off with another garbage outside the road, and then some birdhouses. So, for me, basically, I try to get kids to think of that. As educators, we try to do that, and we try to get them to think college and that kind of thing. I like to see them planning ahead as far as having resources for their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, and having our sustainable. happy to stand for any questions if you have them. I think really, Dr. Hill's been trying to wrap his mind around this. I've been thinking about this for 4 or 5 years. He's trying, trying to ask a lot of questions, and I think it's my vision, and I think, if you have questions, and it's easier for you to ask me directly instead of do the, hear something like that, so.
When we collect the cans, then do you take them and get the money for them and that goes towards the project? Is that what that's for?
The aluminum cans, we take them and we separate them and we crush them. And we save them and we store them in the dust room out there, with industrial tech, take them to the scrap yard, and that money goes into the science club. So the science club, the way it's set up, that account can be used for the climate club kids. So we go, we get t-shirts made, we go to the zoo for a field, a field trip that we pay for. We go to, we go to Miller Farm, tree monitoring trip, and I pay for that out of that. So we do things that we cut out of the curriculum just because we can raise money to do big work. Buy butterfly nets and so we do that with the terracycle stuff. We try to do a better job with that. That's, candy wrappers and all that kind of stuff, we get money for it. With the aluminum cans and the computer stuff. That's the e-books. We did, you saw all that stuff, we got money for that. We got something like 28 cents a pound.
How many people did you have in the community show up and drop stuff off that day?
We probably had 20 people stopping.
When was that Saturday?
Saturday.
Do we send something home for that?
Yeah, we did.
We put it on the website.
Once you have another, because I wasn't home.
We will have, the company's an alliance, and I said, think about doing it every couple of years. He said, do it twice a year. Because just, people have it, and you forget about it or whatever. So, if the stuff's out, people probably have two computers.
I've scared installed the stuff I can't off.
Yeah.
What about when we do the shredded? Is that something that could benefit us in any way? I mean, you don't get money for that, right?
Shredding paper.
Mm-hmm.
There is a program where you can get money for recycling. It's called Paper Retriever. And the county gives us our recycle dumpster certificate. We pick the value for stuff. So, this out of the, loyalty to them, I don't really want to pursue that.
Okay.
It's not a lot of money, other schools do it, but the county just, they do it, they've been good at us, so.
Well, I have another suggestion too. I know Mrs. Skidmore used to do some stuff with this, but since she's retired,
I'm writing about that.
my yard, which is 2 miles down the road, if you ever wanted to come, we have tons of wildflowers. I don't know if you guys do wildflowers. Whenever I was in school, not here, but in Pennsylvania, we did a wildflower collection, which you can go take pictures, write about the wildflowers. We had to have like, 25 or something like that. It'd be a great project, but for them to get used to the nature and what's around them. But we have at least that in our backyard. You can probably do the whole project in our backyard. So anyway, it's just something else that is we'd be close by, but I'm sure everyone's that lives on our road probably has the same kind of backyard. So
Do you collect seed out of that at all?
no, I just let them reseed themselves.
Your son told me what ginseng was, you gotta be collecting seed.
Yeah, and he also makes sassafras tea, and he does all kinds of stuff.
Because we'd love to have that seed and put it out here and we'll put from there.
Yeah, so that's something else that we did when I was a kid, and it was really interesting because you're out in the parks and you see the wildflowers, and if you don't, if you know what they are, it makes it a little more interesting. So it's another. What's that?
In a long house.
Yeah, and the teepee and the man cave. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So I'm sending him over to Thor's next. He can build something. But yeah, so that's something else that if they wanted to do something like that as a project. So.
Well, really, this program is just, there's no end to it. I mean, it's really, it has a way of building with participation. I sit on the sustainability committee at work, and, you know, we've got so many different initiatives that we're working with our vendors on, whether it be waste management or things that students are involved with that they have personal interest, as well as the college putting up solar panels and such, you know. So just the idea of bringing that education into the forefront of the students' curriculum here, because they will need that exposure. I mean, it's going to help having that exposure at a high school level rather than waiting to college. But just bicycle programs, a lot of these things are habit forming, things that they'll carry on throughout the rest of their life. And they don't necessarily have to be money-making issues if they are in things that we do in good conscience, you know, things that we do because it's the right thing to do. And I know that we have what we call a REEF fund, which is a revolving environmental education fund, where we put money from those different programs back into our programming, and it helps sustain other initiatives down the road. So, you know, if we have somebody who's into science and earth science and such, that wants to do, you know, senior papers or thesis or you know, just it's their point of interest, something that's going to help them maybe get a foothold into their college environment. You know, these are initiatives that's going to help feed that program. I think it's a wonderful thing and probably long overdue, but there's a huge amount of resource out there, and I commend you for kind of having the forethought and trying to set this thing up. And I just think it's going to be great. I think you're going to get a lot of participation with our students, because it's a world of fun. When you can actually lay your hands on it, you can see it, and you can be actively involved with it rather than reading it or, you know, talking about it. So that makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's the kind of programming that we need to encourage here at this district. So.
Did the grant covered everything you needed? And then you still have enough to do the bridge and the other things, or we?
Yeah, there's a good amount of money there. I'm not sure the cost, but we get money.
Yeah.
There's leftover with the signage and all that stuff, you know, the birdhouse is like $1,000, and we don't need any more grants.
Right.
I don't think it'll cost more than $1,000 to do it.
Check those questions out.
I just want to volunteer. Students have gone into a significant recycle plan. Create a whole small department of that. We have a manager managing that department. He's got a recycle van. He goes out to a lot of fairs and events in the summer and everything like that. I'm sure we can make arrangements for him to come out and do this. Got a great slide presentation on all the benefits and all the issues and the way they did things. And I'm sure he can come out and speak to the class. He's really energetic about it. It's pretty moving. The things that we do and continue to.
Yeah, it's one of the most progressive fields going today. I mean, I just took on an intern, and I know a number of the other college environments that's, you know, they're into sustainability and trying to centralize those initiatives, and you've got to have people who know their stuff to do that. And you know, even now, I've just started ours at the College of Worcester about 2 years ago, and in about a year, it basically went over my head, you know. So it is great to have those kind of resources where people can bring in the research and the technology to help you do these kind of initiatives and to make it understandable and purposeful for the common person. So.
We're looking for help, so any suggestions?
Once you get that compost going, can you grow some raw mushrooms?
There you
my
go.
vote. You know how hard it is to find morel mushrooms?
It's hard to keep you at work.
I'm all for it.
Oh, I am too. That was your question.
I got a question. I want some morel mushrooms.
Bring those into the cafeteria.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
I think it's awesome. Got my vote.
Could that be, now that you just mentioned that, could that be another, in the future, benefit from that, is like, with the gardens and with all that, like, providing healthy, natural, grown vegetables and supplies from our own that we don't have to pay for?
I would hope so. I mean, that's,
That's,
for me, my.
In September. That'd be about the only month that you probably get those vegetables. But yeah.
There are schools that do
yeah,
that.
You
that
can.
is, that's very much a green initiative
It is.
that our food service, you know, we have a program of buy local, support the local farmer, as well as, you know, then you don't have shipping costs, you don't have food with chemicals. You've got the staff and the students who are actively involved with the growing process. And it's a great thing because they actually see their work evolving. And they work the garden. And the whole community is more benefited by it. So I think it'd be a great thing to try to integrate our food service program into.
We live in a farming community.
That's right.
Can't ask for more,
That's right.
yeah. It's probably not a question you can't get answered around here, so.
Yeah. No, that'd be, or have a farmer's market and sell them.
Yeah, there you go.
Get money from that.
There you go.
And you can't hit it, I mean, it just grows. I mean,
It does.
Just get something in place and then people will step up. I think Ellen would love to have something like that at her sprouts, have her kids grow this up and bring it. I mean, what's
Bless
the
you.
best thing for you to do?
And she we've already talked about the biodegradable pots. I can get those for you, so you can do that too if she needs them. Anybody else have any other questions? Thanks. Thanks for coming in
Thank
your
you.
summer
Thank
off.
So we'll start moving forward with, once we get the money. We're in the stage where Todd has sent in the last information that they needed for them to release the money to us. So Ken's been patiently waiting to be able to get, he's got POs filled out, ready to go. as soon as that money comes. So it should be here very, very soon.
Hopefully it might come in.
What was that? Yeah.
Talking about
yeah.
my daily phone calls.
Yeah.
Who wrote his brief?
Ken's grant, Ken wrote the majority of what was done there. It was very much Ken's initiative. Portage County approached the district about the stormwater credit that we could receive, along with, you know, I think we had talked about before, they had different levels of discounts. We went for the 75% level of the tax, which also involved us doing some kind of a project that they were funding. And so we submitted this project to them. I brought, as soon as they came out, I thought of Ken right away because of what he's been doing here. So we sat down together with Portage County, and Ken very much did the draft narrative of the project and everything that he's done. He does a great job. We're appreciative of his initiative and that he's doing within this area.
Who says school can't be fun? And learn at the same time, right?
He's right.
20,000.
All right, well, I want to move in. It said we would go over and look at a summary of these survey results tonight. And then from there, move into some number stuff, a discussion as far as the levy request goes for November. We'll go from there. Ken, did you put the,
Oh, yeah, here you go.
is it in there?
It is now.
Nice. One second here.
Here you go.
So I gave you a copy. We did this, just to start off here, we did this summary, or this survey. They were done free of charge to the district. The only thing they took was the time to put into them, creating them, and then entering them into the Google system. We use the Google system to do all of this, which is a free tool. I provided, what I did was I looked at a number of different districts that have done surveys over the past. and picked and chose different questions that I thought were relevant to what we'd like to know here. Then it was sent out, we thought about mailing it out to everybody in the community and wanted to stay away from that expense. So it was sent out via email, it was posted on our websites, talked about at board meetings, talked about in the newspaper articles regarding our board meetings. And so what I've given you there, and then for those here, I have the summaries up here if you want, if you didn't grab them by agendas. What I wanted to do tonight is just kind of I'm not going to go through every single one that's there. There's 2 surveys, though, that we did, and I wanted to give you a few ideas of where the community is, and then there was a few areas where they could respond with general responses, write-in answers, and so I tried to go through and do a content analysis of that to pick out the major themes and give you a sense of what we saw within those. So, and then the first was a community survey. We had 158 community respondents that filled that out. They had to choose, one of the first things they chose was how they were affiliated with the district, whether they were a current parent, a past parent, a community resident that didn't have any students here, past or present, district employee or student. So you can see the largest percentage of people, it was about 80 or 66% of the respondents were current parents, guardians. But we did get some that had no affiliation with the school at all as far as kids have gone, past or present. One of them even commented on there, they're not sure how I got their email, but they get all the updates. They get all the updates. And they keep sending them. They didn't tell me to get lost. So as we move on here, thought this was interesting. This was a recurring theme throughout. Which of the following is the biggest challenge facing our district? And 68% said school funding. That was definitely a common theme, as we would expect, especially with such a heavy population of current parents, with the effects that they're seeing here because of that. A couple others that were there, the higher percentages, the others were down in single percents. Thought this was interesting, this ability to attract and retain quality teachers came in at 8%. This is something that we're going to take, and I want to talk as we go through this a little bit about things that we'll do with this survey. We asked and gave a number of different options of presentations that they could select that they thought they would benefit from, and they could mark multiple ones. They didn't only be able to select one. So they can see here that there's a good amount of people, for example, that would like to know more about the extracurricular programs we offer. I think in particular, when you break that down, people aren't quite as sure what we offer outside of athletics when it comes to extracurriculars. But you can see other ones, how to get help for their student when they struggle academically. Almost a third of the people responding are asking for assistance in that area. Another one, and this was a common theme when we looked at this in regards to the graduate survey too that I'll talk about. This successful transition to college or work is an area that people have a very strong interest in. And even taking it a step further back, transition from the middle school into the high school. So we will use this information to go back and plan future meetings that we have for the community, whether it's our school parents or whether it's the community at large. This will be helpful information for us. Like I said, I picked some of these that I thought were kind of interesting and relevant to the conversations we've had here for months. So in regards to local funding, how are we viewed? We can see here that 39% think that we're a great value for what they pay. Another 47% think we're a reasonable cost. And we're only 11% think that it's just flat out too expensive. When we talk about our relationship with the community, this is something that we continue to work at. How can we continue to strengthen that relationship? How do we work to get the word out? How do we connect? You can see here that 32% of the respondents felt that we weren't very well connected to the community. The other 68% felt that we were either responsive to the needs or that we enhanced the quality of the community. What type of education do Waterloo students receive? Quality. So this is a rating of 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. So when we take a look at those highest two categories, 60% of the people think that our students are getting a quality education. When you add in that middle category of 3, you jump up to 91%. How well are our students prepared for college? Again, about 45% are in the highest two categories, another total of 72%. So when we add in the category of 3. And for the workforce, again, we can see these are pretty consistent here. The majority of our respondents feel that the kids at Waterloo are getting a quality education and that they're well prepared for college or the workforce.
Kevin didn't show up on.
It's not there. It may be on the page before.
Oh, it is, it's on the page.
Yeah. How would you rate the amount of trust that you have in the Waterloo local school district? It's always interesting to see, but in the 4 and 5, the highest two categories, 73% of the people are indicating they have a very high level of trust in what's happening here. Matter of fact, the lowest two categories only accounted for a total of 8% overall. And so at least within this small group, okay, there seems to be a pretty large trust factor there with what's happening here at the school. This one was really interesting to me. Where do you, because this has been something that we've been struggling with, at least I've been struggling with for 2 years here. How do we actually reach people? And so we asked, where do you receive most of your information about the district? And you can see here that with the group that was responding, that district emails that are sent out with information are the highest. Okay, but we can also see that things like word of mouth and our district website are important ways that people get it. In this, and we'll get into it on this next, well, I don't think I put that other slide up there. When we asked how would you like to receive information, we got a lot of the same things that were already here. They're happy with the communication that's going on, but I think there was a couple of things that came through pretty loud and clear to me. One is, I'm not sure, I think we're doing, and I think the survey says that, we're doing a good job of reaching the people that have kids in the school. But I'm not sure how efficiently most of these communication tools are for people that don't. And so one of the things that came through was that people are missing the Vikinggram that used to be sent out to the community. I think it was quarterly. We stopped doing that. I think the last one that went out was April of 2011. We did that. We wanted to try some other methods and save some money. Those are expensive. And so one of the things that I'm going to suggest to you, because I think we are missing a huge target population by not sending that communication piece out, is that we look at revising how we do the Vikinggram, looking to see if we can do it in a more cost-effective way, and then maybe looking at doing it twice a year, once in August, and then once sometime kind of the second half of the school year. But we've heard about that over the course of time. The other suggestion that came through with how to communicate was if there was a way that we could add community members to the Alert Now list so that they could get messages that happen with the school. So that's something that we will look into and see what we can do. And if we can, try to figure out an efficient way, an effective way of actually adding phone numbers. Obviously, we pay per kid, but there's the ability to add some others, so I'm not sure if we actually have a limit or not. I guess we'll find out if we look into this. But if we did that, we'd separate it. Obviously, somebody without kids doesn't need to be getting calls from me at 5:30 saying there's no school. But other situations that happen that we're trying to get the word out to the community.
That may be
helpful.
cheaper than the Viking ground.
You know, there's a website, and I don't know why that we couldn't do this, that I used when I was coaching baseball. E-zones or something like that, and you create it for groups or whatever, but people, anybody can sign up for this thing and be part of it, whether it's team members or whoever wants to be a member of this club. I'll have to go back and remember and find out what website it is. But people can get in there, they can log in, and then they can either receive a text or an email or both. When you want, like, if I was gonna cancel practice, I just had to send one text, and boom, it goes out there.
It's free service?
Yeah, it was free. I'll have to go look back in my book. I don't think it was just for teams, so, but I mean, the people actually have to physically go on, create an account and put their information in, and then, you just hit one thing and it goes out, so I'll check that out, what you.
So we'll look into that too. Those were really the two big suggestions with the Viking Link and then using the call system for other non-residents. I had a student that put in there that they would like me to hand deliver every message personally.
You need to earn
They
your
must
money
like you.
somehow, right?
Now, that student also had a few choice words about pay to participate. So, in general, do you feel the Waterloo School District is headed in the right direction? And 61% of the people, not all of them answered, as you can see, the percentages don't add up to 100, but 61% of the people feel that we are. And the people that didn't, a number of them indicated that the reason that they checked no is because of all of the cuts that are happening and what's happening in the classroom. That's what we'll see here with these comments in a moment. Most of them that checked no turned around and actually wrote a pretty detailed comment in the next question that they were able to. So as you take a look at these comments and suggestions, I tried to, like I said, do a thematic content analysis and find the main areas and take a look at what was there, because there was so much information. Kind of broke it down, I think, into 4 main areas. The first was our financial situation. 55 people directly responded in that comment area about the negative impact, or the financial situation in our district. 45 of them talked about the negative impact that this is having, especially in the area of academics. The increasing class sizes, the loss of electives, those type of issues. 4 of them talked about losing quality teachers. Another couple suggested that we haven't done enough as a district to find alternate funding mechanisms, and we need to work on that before we go back to the community to look for another level. We had the one that I just mentioned that had some concerns over pay to participate fees. Interestingly enough, it was as it related to band, not to athletics. We had a couple that thought that we should reduce staff salaries, that our staff salaries were high compared to average salary in our communities. And then another that suggested we share service with other districts. That's kind of a breakdown within that one category. Within curriculum and instruction, there was 48 responses. A big one, the biggest one that we saw was we've cut too many elective classes. People are upset that there's not choices for their students to take, especially as they get into high school. They feel like programs that once made Waterloo good and what they were, and those were some exact quotes, are no longer here because of the cuts. The second highest one, as far as comments went, was the need for us to continue to improve our college prep program and technology available to the students. We had 8 people comment directly that our emphasis should be on academics, not on athletics. Great concern over the class sizes increasing and the impact that that's having on the education of our students. We had 5 people that made the comment that they were concerned that we overly teach to the state test. I feel there's way too much emphasis placed here on that. 3 that thought it would be good for us to create a district-level bullying prevention program. And then a few others who were concerned about advanced students, not just at the high school, but the other levels in our building, and then additional support for our students who are struggling academically. Okay, so, we will take all this information and see what we can do. We've done a lot of things within the 5-year plan to address the curriculum issues, but I will say, it becomes harder for us to be able to offer some of the things that the community is asking for when we're continuing to have to cut. Especially the support services that are there for students, whether they're students who are gifted or students who struggle academically. Those are where we've made significant cuts. And the more that we have to do that, the greater the impact is going to be that we're going to see. And so people are starting to notice that, I think, is what the survey shows. Another area was community relations. We need to figure out a way to involve more parents and community into our district, and that we need to have the better communication with community members that have no children or grandchildren. And keep in mind, again, these are comments that are coming from where they could actually write in something and not just select a number or a yes or no answer. A lot of these, if you go back and really study extensively the summary that's there on the other questions, you'll see these kind of comments are reinforced throughout the survey in the other areas as well. And then the last area was levy requests. We had people comment that we need to find a way to present the information in a more understandable form. That people felt that the way that it's been presented by me was 2 levels over everybody's head, and it needs to be related in a more understandable manner. Communication of need and when a levy's on the ballot, again, people were saying that they weren't aware that we were even on in March. And had it not been for running across something a couple days before, they would have never even known that we were there. So they're suggesting that we need to communicate better. So we take those for what they're worth. We've talked many times about the communication struggle. Seems like we're, banging our heads against the wall, doing everything we can to communicate, yet we're not getting the message out there in the way we need to. So we keep working on that, and especially with how it's presented, and we need to take that into consideration. With this graduate survey, I think we had a total of, it was 44, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Originally, when I was going to mail this out, I was going to make it a recent graduate survey, so we were going to mail it to graduates in the last 5 years. When we decided not to do that, we just opened it up to any graduate at all, Waterloo. So again, this is all done anonymous unless they left their name. It's all done on the web. So I trust that people that filled this out actually are graduates. One of the first questions that they were asked to answer was, after graduation, where'd they go? And so you can see here that I think 75% of them moved on to college. That was our highest category of the respondents. And we had people, the first question asked what year they graduated in. We had people, I think, all the way back into the mid-70s that filled this out. So it was really kind of across the board. We had some recent graduates in the last year or two. A lot of them, it seemed like in the 90s.
Mid-70s, wasn't that long?
Yeah.
Seemed like yesterday.
Yes, it does.
So we asked, the education that they received at Waterloo prepared me well for my life after high school. That was a yes or a no answer. And so 66% of them indicated that they felt that they were well prepared. This was a short survey. We asked them a couple other questions. And what did Waterloo do well that prepared you for life after high school? And of those 44, 15 of them directly wrote comments about the positive impact that either a teacher or counselor or teacher made on their life. They attribute a lot of their positive experience at Waterloo to people that they had in the classroom that took an interest in them, taught them well, helped guide them to their future. Extracurricular opportunities, 8 of them responded that that was an important thing for them when they were here, that those were done well by the district and helped them out. We did have, we had a number, and I talked about it earlier, and I should have put it on this slide. There was, when we talk about the teachers, one of the things that went hand in hand too, a lot of them talked about the curriculum, preparing them very well for moving on. I should clarify that slide. As far as suggestions for what Waterloo could do better, we had 10 that responded something to the effect that we need to prepare students better for their transition to the next level. 8 that thought we needed to add more rigorous classes. A number of those 8, that's why I put it in parentheses, a number of the 8 specifically mentioned AP. 5 thought that we need to do a better job encouraging students to push themselves to maximize their potential both when they're here and for as they plan for their future after Waterloo. And then 4 thought we needed to provide more extracurricular activities for students. I think some of the graduates have students here now, and they were frustrated with some of the cuts that we've had to do in regards to all of these areas, newspapers and some of the other non-athletic activities were mentioned. That's it. So those are the surveys. We will go ahead and take that information and use that to the best of what it is. You know, we had 158 respondents out of, I think, a community that has roughly 8,000 people between the 2 townships. You know, so we're looking at 1% of our population, and that's how they feel. But at least it gives us some insight into the minds of people here in our community, especially our school parents, and how they feel about what's happening. Before we move on, though, are there any questions on any of this? So I want to turn to the financial side of things, then, because one of the things that has to happen tonight is we have to figure out whether or not we're going to place, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, but what that actually is that we place on the ballot, I don't know. That's for discussion tonight. But we had pulled the August request off in May once we had the insurance savings that we were not anticipating. And we had talked at that point about once the fiscal year closed, and we could actually compare actual numbers versus projected numbers, that we would have a discussion here in July about what millage amount and what type of levy we should go back to the community for in November. Because our need hasn't changed. The need is there, very real. We've kind of pushed our problem just a little bit further down the road with that unexpected money with the insurance. So tonight, what I wanted to show, unfortunately Todd is out of town. I have end of the year numbers that I wanted to show you as far as actuals versus the projections. The projections are based off of the May 5-year forecast that you approved that was sent to the Ohio Department of Education. So then from there, we'll take a look at, we've run a number of different scenarios, both continuous and an emergency levy for 5 years. So we'll take a look at how far each of those gets us out, and then have some discussion on what's best for us to take back to the community. So just to start with, when we take a look at our actual numbers versus projected, and this isn't a complete breakdown, it just kind of highlights some major points. We actually ended the year much better than was forecasted. And I want to make a very clear point here. This is not because we forecasted to lowball things so that it looked good when June rolled around or July rolled around. Okay, the way that, the approach that Todd, I think, has taken for years and has continued since I've come on is we try to take our best information we have, that the state's giving us, that the federal government's giving us, that the auditor's office is giving us, and we plug in the safe, conservative numbers that they can guarantee that we're going to receive. Because in no way, shape, or form do we ever want to be here at the end of a fiscal year telling you, hey, guess what? We're $500,000 less than where we thought we would be because we overprojected. Okay, so we use a conservative approach, but we use a conservative approach that's based on fact. Todd can pull out all the documents from the state, from the federal government, from wherever it is, to back up and show why the number that was given was put there. So at the end of the year here, on the revenue side, we actually ended up a little over $350,000 more than we anticipated. The bulk of that was from payments from the state in two areas. The state foundation, and this mostly brings into effect, I called down to Columbus yesterday to verify this because the bridge formula they use is somewhat complicated. And basically what the state had told us a year ago was the safe number to project is flat funding for from fiscal year 11 minus the money that you had in stimulus money, which for us was a significant amount of money. That's why we had that decrease last year. So we took that number because they assured us that we wouldn't go any lower than that. Well, what happened this year was we started our digital academy. We ended up at the end of the year with 24 kids, I believe, that were enrolled there. And as we've talked about before, when we keep those kids here, we keep roughly $5,700, a little bit more in the district too. The other piece of it from this local money is open enrollment. And we were able to close our ratio of the number of kids leaving versus the number of kids we're bringing in. So when you take a look at that, that's a little shy of $270,000 of that money came from there. The other bulk of it was, if you remember back, I think it was in January, we got that unexpected rebate check because of the House bill project that you had done here for energy efficiency. And so George Locker from Chevron was able to go back on some newer program because of the savings that had been implemented with that 264 project. And so we got an unexpected $50,500 at that point. The real estate collections, it came in above where it was supposed to be. On the expenditure side, these were all decreases in what we projected. And again, these come because we've been, not that we would be out there just spending lavishly if we didn't have our financial problems, but we have been pinching every penny that we possibly can in every single way possible. So we were able to save in all of these different areas. One of the big things under that purchase services, we cut back on our school psychologist days this past year from 9 to 5. Why do we need a school psychologist? A school psychologist is responsible for doing all the testing with special education students and a number of other things that are related to that. We were able to get the district caught up to where it needed to be, and we were able to adjust accordingly by cutting days back to be able to maintain what we have now. Supplies and materials, a lot of that came out of building budgets that we further cut. Capital outlay, we had budgeted $50,000 and we spent a little less than 34 on different projects that needed to be done around here. So overall, we did a good job with money. This is a positive thing for us. The thing that we have to keep in mind, though, here as we look at all of this, is that this doesn't all of a sudden, though, change our situation. This may prolong our situation a little bit, but absent community support and new funding locally, we're going to be right back in the situation that we were in very quickly. And so I'm cautious when we sit here and talk about things like pay to participate. I'm cautious to say, well, hey, we have all this extra money, let's lower it, because from where I stand as we sit here and look at all of these things, we're working hard to be good stewards of the community's money. This district always has. We're working hard to implement and try to further the curriculum offerings we have here, trying to get things that we can to support our students. All of this while we've cut $2 million from our budget over the last few years, and the bulk of that cuts have come from reductions that have affected people in the classroom as much as we try to stay away from that. And so as we look at this, we're going to work as hard as we possibly can to communicate with our need to the community and hopefully get support in November. But realistically, when we take a look at where our numbers have been on the last 4 elections, the time that I've been here, there's nothing to indicate that we're going to be able to swing that vote enough to come November be in a situation where the community has stepped up and put forth enough votes to get us the millage that we need or the dollars that we need to be able to stay out of the problem that we're in. And I want to further add to that we've been saying this all along. You can only cut so much. According to the state, we can still cut a little and be at state minimums. But to maintain the quality that I think this community wants, we're jeopardizing that. And I think what we're going to see when our new report card comes out in August is that we're going to be taking a step back in some of the areas that the district had made good strides in forward. And I think the majority of that is because we have less people. We have less people, less support for students. And no one can convince me that that's not the major cause for it. When you have classes that are in the 30s, when you have support staff that work with students who struggle that are no longer here, those things start to have an impact, and that greatly concerns me. And so I try to look at this from a large picture of all of this. And while this is great, and this says that everybody that's here is very conscious about what it is that our problems are and about spending money and doing everything we can, we can't let this put us into the picture where we think now our problems aren't there, because they're very real, and they're just kicked a little bit down the road for what that's worth. So I commend the staff here. The staff has really worked hard to tighten belts in all areas. The staff has worked hard to work harder, more efficiently, with less. And they continue to do that. They continue to give of themselves to make these things happen. Our employees here have given of themselves in negotiations over the last few years to help us be able to minimize the costs and reductions we've had. So this is what our numbers show. When we have to redo the forecast for submittal in the fall, all of this stuff will be in there. A couple notes that I'll mention in regards before we start to look at some of these projections. Made some calls to see what we could find out as far as state funding goes for this next year. It's the second year of their biennial budget. And what they're saying is that they believe that the numbers that are projected should hold consistently, as long as our enrollment doesn't drop. Because a lot of this bridge formula is based upon your enrollment and open enrollment and community school enrollment, all kind of ties hand in hand. So as long as we don't experience some kind of a huge influx out, the numbers that we have budgeted into the 5-year forecast, which is what we received from the state, should hold. If we have another year like this year and we can continue to attract students in or keep them here, then we may be in a better situation. Federally, I was reading today that apparently this agreement that they reached a year ago or whenever it was to keep the federal government running, the parts of it expire or something coming, I think, in November. And if they can't reach an agreement by a certain point, there's automatic reductions that kick in departments. So they're saying that federally, states could be cut up to 8.4% when it comes to federal money. So for us, that would impact Title I, that would impact Title VI-B. The article I read said some states had already come out and either withheld 10% of their payments to the districts in anticipation of it, or give notice to districts that that could happen. Unless I've missed it, I have not seen anything yet from Ohio in response to that. But they did have a breakdown of how much each state would lose under different scenarios, and Ohio's was pretty significant. It was in the 50 millions in the one area and some other ungodly amount of millions in the other. So that's something that we don't know where that'll end up. Maybe they'll reach an agreement and avoid that. So that's on the horizon. Also, Governor Kasich has his next budget for the next 2 years after the current fiscal year is due, and I think they usually put those out around March. So it'll come out around March of 13 for implementation July 1 of 13. And he had a lady, Barb Matei Smith, who the past year studied and worked and got feedback across the state on the state formula for how they fund education. They were hoping to have a change for this year, but they didn't reach that. Now they have hearings that are happening both in the Senate and the House on public school financing, equity. And so we're not sure where that's going to end up, what kind of impact that'll have on future years. Okay, so and I bring all these things up because these are as you well know, these are the scenarios that we deal with as you try to project out 5 years and where these things are going to be. And that's why things like this happen. And I'll suggest to you that things like this happen regularly in districts. When you're in good times and finances aren't tight, this is how levies like the one passed in '95 last 15 years when you thought they were going to last 5. And this stuff regularly happens because you're dealing with all of these things that you're making your best educated projection on based off of guidance, and that constantly changes. So that being said,
Before you
yeah,
get
go
that
ahead.
far, the total on the expenditures doesn't add up.
Yes,
Is that because some other things increased?
yes.
Okay.
We had other areas that increased. I just picked out the ones where we had the significant decreases, but that total does not add up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So as we take a look at levy projections, the first type here is the continuous, okay, which is the permanent type. Once it's passed, it's there continuing. Okay, and what I've done here is to show the type, the amount, and then when that would keep us financially in the black through. So keep in mind, we're in fiscal year 13 right now. We just started it. Fiscal year 17 is the point where we would carry through the current 5-year forecast that we have. Okay, I bring that up because I know that's been an important thing to the board before. Before I started, the board at the time had placed 8 mills on the ballot for November of 10, and they got that 8 mills on what amount would carry them out through the 5-year length of the forecast. So as we look at this, as things stand now, fiscal year 17 would carry us through. There's differences, though, in what the balance is within those years, and that's why 4.5 and 5 mills both do the same thing. So we ran just to show, and Todd and I shared this in my update to you last week. He's not here. Todd feels that a continuous levy is the district's best option because he's concerned that somewhere down the road when a renewal is up, that we may have to be asking for more money plus a renewal if things change unexpectedly. He's also concerned that emergency sends the wrong signal, because the need that we have is something that's continuing for the district. It's not something that in a couple of years we can say, well, we don't need it anymore. Okay, and so while I don't dismiss anything that he's saying, and I would say that I have those same concerns, my tendency would be to lean more towards a 5-year emergency levy. Because I think that that gives the community an opportunity to come back after a period of time if we decide that we want to renew it, and to act accordingly to how they feel that we've been performing. It gives them that option. They'll tell you, and you've heard me say this before, that there's really no difference between new money passing in this state between continuous and emergency. And I think the results from March, this past March, actually show that. Matter of fact, continuous may have passed more than the emergencies did. Renewals have a very good percentage chance of passing historically across the state. All I can say is that in talking to a number of people in the community, both those that are diehard supporters of the school and those that actively put signs in their front yard opposing our levies, there seems to be a stigma attached to the word continuous. And I would suggest to you that we have enough issues trying to gain enough support to pass a levy that I don't think we need that barrier of continuous as something that stands as an additional burden on us trying to get it passed. But again, I don't disagree at all with what Todd is recommending. Continuous is probably, most district personnel would tell you, continuous is definitely the better option when you look at the long-term interest of a district. I just think in our situation, we need to take a look at what can we do to get this thing passed, what's going to have the greatest likelihood of people supporting it. And I think the smaller and the ability to go back and renew after a defined period of time is probably our best bet. And with the situation we're in, I think we need to look at what is our best bet in that regards, so that we can try to stop this bleeding, whether it's in pay to participate, whether it's in the loss of teachers and other things that are happening here. So we have two different opinions, and so we wanted to be able to present you stuff here that kind of showed, depending on what type it is, where we go. If we get to a point here, I don't think I mentioned this before, but if we're going to do this in November, we need to pass a resolution, preferably one tonight, and then we're going to have to schedule a special meeting for July, the end of July, because we have to have all of this done and give enough time so that things can be in between the 1st and the 2nd. This goes to the auditor's office to certify, and then we have to have it to the Board of Elections by August 3rd, which is prior to our next meeting. So there is a sense of urgency in the sense of, unless we want to have multiple special meetings this month, we should take some type of action if we're going to do this in November tonight for the first resolution. And I've brought over paperwork for each type, depending on if something's decided, if that's what's there. I don't think Todd or I would suggest to you that we go as low as 2 mils. I mean, that really only gets us out a couple of years. But we just wanted to show you here the scope of how long these things last. The emergency side is a little different, not too much different. After a certain point, it starts to get out less number of years, because we didn't project in that the emergency would continue. We'd have to go back for a vote on that. If that were the case, obviously we would want it to continue. But when you do an emergency levy, if we decide this route tonight, we would be approving a defined dollar amount and asking Janet Esposito to verify that amount based off of our valuations, and then to equate that to a millage. But both the dollar amount and the millage amount appear on the ballot to the voters. Whereas a continuous, it's strictly just the millage. The dollar amount doesn't show up anywhere. Okay, so that's the difference here. So you can see roughly how much each of these millage amounts on this slide brings in per year, and then where it's getting us financially. over the course of time. And then the other thing I have here, you have these in front of you, if we have a need to look further, I actually have the ending part of this, for example here, fiscal year 15 for 2 mills. It would leave us with a positive balance at the end of 15 of $387,000. So that gets important when you get into these ones that take us into the same fiscal year. So you can see here, 4.5 mills gets us about 300,000 to the positive through fiscal year 17, whereas 5 mills, that number is 650,000 to the positive. So that's where you start to see the impact, and then obviously that impacts these numbers differently as you move down. The continuous, it's there, it's continuing to go in there, so this number's lower compared to the emergency where we can't project anything beyond 5 years for the revenue. So with all of that being said, I want this very much to be a discussion amongst you. I'm happy to answer any questions, give you my opinions, but I think it's important that there's a discussion here on what you believe is best, and then ultimately some type of action that comes out of that discussion.
Okay. We did take the one off for 7.95 in August, and at that time, we discussed we would try and lower it. So all of these are under that, so we're at that point right now. So I'm sure all of you have thought about this for the last 2 months. You want to start one under the other? Who wants to start? Brian? Steve?
Go ahead.
Steve, you want to start?
Yeah, I agree with Andy about, I guess it's just that word continuous that everybody has a problem with. Now, I found out the last 6 or 7 months here that, this money, whether it be coming in or going out, there's just a moving part of it. It's never something that, I don't know, I work for the government, so I know what it's like. That money is not even there, it's just on paper. So,
Well, do we want to start with that? You would rather have the emergency then?
yeah, I mean, it's obvious we're not going to be able to do long-range planning. But, I mean, sooner or later, the community's got to come to the table here with us, and we got to be able to do at least some short-term planning.
Okay.
So I have no problem with that emergency.
Ken, what, on continuing or emergency, which way are you leaning?
I'm leaning to continuous. I just hate the idea of kicking the can down the road. I think it's for me, I would be not genuine by saying that hopefully 5 years will make a difference, and that we could come up with more stability for the schools. So I like continuous. I do believe that it won't pass because the community has come to us and said, give us the least amount for a defined period. And I believe that is going to make all the difference in the world. They know we have issues. They know we're financially strapped. They don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and neither do we. I do know it's not going to be cheaper tomorrow, but I do know that the emergency level gives them a sense of somewhat control, so that they have more input or opinions. And I think that we have to go, unfortunately, with the emergency levy, definitely with the, five mills is what I looked at.
Diane?
Well, I don't want to say anything negative about what Todd has given us as far as all the information and all that.
A treasurer's always going to say continuous because
Correct.
he's the one that has to do the books, and it's a lot easier to know that money's coming and to always know that money's coming. And not anything against Todd. I mean, the continuous is the best. We all know
Right,
that.
we agree
Yeah, I
with
agree.
that.
So it's not a
Being-
personal thing, I'm sure.
Being on that levy committee doing what we did, I think we should listen to the community this time, and I think we should go with the emergency 5 mils. I think we'll get a better response.
Brian?
Well, I think that we are at the 20 mil floor, and we've been there for several years. I think probably over 5 years, what the minimum allowed by the state. And I was talking to Todd the other day, he told me that our effective millage is what you're paying, not what's been voted in today, is less than it was before we passed the money to build, the effective millage to build these buildings. So if you think about that, right? Did I say that right? Does that make sense? Was it clear?
Yeah, that would actually be a really good levy.
I mean, our effective millage
Campaign
is less than it
slogan.
was. So I mean, to me, that's tremendous. I agree wholeheartedly with Ken. I think continuous is the best way to go. But I don't know that it has as good a chance of passing, obviously, as the emergency. The only thing that I can think of, if we go for an emergency, it has to be an amount that's going to last us 5 years, which I think the minimum would be 4.5 mils, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is 17. If we went with a continuous, I think we could go maybe with 3 mils on continuous, and that would last us to fiscal year 16, I believe. And that would be, if we were going to do continuous, I think we'd have to go with something like 3. The advantage of it, I think that our best opportunity is the emergency. Unfortunately, though, 4.5 mils is. So I guess you get to the point where people rather see continuous for like 3 mils or emergency for 4.5 mils, 5, whatever.
Okay.
Well, the thing about it is, if we want continuous for 3 years, after 3 years, we're coming back again
Well,
and asking for more.
That's true.
And I mean, but there's no guarantee. I mean, we had no idea that we were going to do as well in this insurance. I mean, it's not like, Santa Claus came in July, but it's not the gloom and doom as bad as what we thought it was going to be. So, I mean, you never know.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe you get those 3 mils and it's continuous, and it lasts, maybe lasts another, we can squeeze another year or so. The thing that worries me about the emergency levy is we're passing it down to whoever. If you think about it, in 5 years, people are going to have to pass a levy, first of all, to replace the 4.5 to 5 mils that's going away, and then additional monies to continue, to make up whatever we need to pass
Same way
them.
we are now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's going to be, maybe you shouldn't worry 5 years away.
Well, the only possibility with that too is that we know the economy can swing one way or the other, so we can always hope that it'll go the other way.
There are some things at the state level that's worrying me. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
saw it or not, but the city of Cleveland, the way I understand it, the way that they've worked with the group that runs their schools, is actually allowing charter schools in Cleveland to be funded with public education dollars. Boy, that's just an absolutely tremendous mistake, and it's a big precedent that's being set.
Mhm.
Once you do it there, shoot, look out. So what's that going to do to funding? What's that going to do to, those kind of things which.
I apologize, I know that word. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The millage that was passed for construction, what date did that occur, and how much is that, and how long is that? If you pass an emergency levy, are we getting into the time period that's going to mature?
No.
It's 25 years. Didn't it pass somewhere around 2000?
Yeah.
I believe it passed in 2000, but I believe it's 25 years. So we still have.
You've got quite a way to go that, that everything is involved.
Chuck, you're a CFO, right?
We keep hoping that's going to go off.
Well, no, what I'm saying is help us.
Well,
I-
again, I agree with you, the continuous is obviously a direction you need to go. That's sustainability in your education. You
Yeah.
can't, you're required to produce a 5-year plan, but you've got to build for the future and build something on the basis. But you've also got to turn around and realize what the community has said in the past, and I agree, emergency is probably your best option that's what people have told you, we don't want to have a continuous levy, time and time again, so you've got to listen to that. It is kicking the can down the road. As Brian said it, that's what you're going to come up with the other one that expires, you're going to look for a renewal, you're going to have to renew the emergency levy as well. The experience across the state is renewals pass easier than additions, so even if you get the emergency passed today, at a lower millage, you may have a more likelihood of be churning lower millage levies as you go forward, even though you will have to go back, and it's not the way you would want to run it, not the way you would want to plan it, but it's funding. If that's your only source, you may not have an option.
Well, and it also, I mean, with everything else that we're doing, I think, unfortunately, you hate to have to base all your decisions on the levy, but we pretty much do. I mean, we have to be able to guarantee our teachers' contract, and it'd be nice to do a 3-year. I mean, I don't know how many years it's been since we've done a 3-year, but it'd be sure nice to be able to, yeah, it's been a long time. It would be really nice to be able to do that, and I just think, I don't think we want to go lower than 4.95, only because we've been there before, and we're in a bigger emergency than what we were when we went for the 4.95. I mean, I think the wording of it, even though Todd sees the word emergency in one way and, other people see it in a different way, if you just go step by step and, continuous, we have people saying they don't want a continuous. Emergency sounds more like we need the money, which we do. If we go with 5, we're still above what we were before, but we're lower than when we were 8 or 7.95. So we're working with the community, and I think that with all of that, and if we go with 5, in my mind, it's exciting to think that we can guarantee a 3-year contract with the teachers. So, I mean, that's the kind of things that we keep going back and forth on.
5 gets us 5 years.
5 gets us 5 years, and honestly, like Chuck said, a renewal will passes faster, usually, and
usually on emergencies, the millage you're paying drops every year.
Right.
Because it's based on volume.
Right, but I mean, it's figured in there, and the nice thing is, I mean, I just was thinking today, I mean, here we are halfway through another year. The last one that passed, the last continuous that passed is 16 and a half years now. We're working into the 17th year, so things do change, and I mean, yes, we've had to cut almost $2 million here and do some things, but it'd be nice that we could
If you look at the other side of
Get
it
that
as
back.
well, I mean, one side of it is what's going to get you through your 5 years? That's the 5-year emergency, or the 5 mil for 5 years will get you through your 5-year plan. Has, again, as we said, probably has more of the appeal side of the message back to the voters of, hey, look, we've gone back, we're almost at state minimums in a lot of programs, it's not where you want to be, but that's the message that you sent, is that you've got to cut before you come ask for money, and don't ask for very much money, and so you've gotten down to your message back to the community during this levy campaign needs to be, hey, we heard you, you need to hear us, that fiscal emergency hasn't gone away. There still is that need for some additional funding in here. We've done everything we could on the fiscal side of the operation to get where we are, and this is where it's at today.
I was just going to say this too, I think we're now at the point, we're saying, yes, we've had to make cuts, the board's had to make terrible decisions and that, but now, not only is it just we've had to cut teachers, now we're losing teachers.
Right.
They see the district is not in financial stability at all.
Right.
It goes clear back to Jessica Servanak, to Mr. Rettke, to Dr. Rettke, to, and we're losing staff now because they're thinking, I don't know what's going to be down the road here at Waterloo, and we're not getting the support that we need. The teachers aren't getting support. They're not even getting their salary steps. We give them back and give them back, which we wanted to do.
Right.
Staff has said that in order to help the district. But now, not only the cuts we've had to make, But now we are losing great teachers, because of the simple fact they're seeing a district that they don't know where they're going to be.
And I've seen that in some of the programs that we've had to go through in various places that I've been, is that when you get to that point, you lose the good people because they can go somewhere.
You do.
You're left with the ones who can't go anywhere. And when they start opting out, that's a signal of the organization.
Right, I mean, we were feeling bad when we were losing them as, even if they were doing a step down to a resource room tutor. Well, now, tonight, we have 2 that resigned, so, I mean, right now they're walking away instead of us letting them go, so, and they are young, good teachers, and
We
it's
had the
just,
opportunity to recall 2 teachers. that
And they both
reduced,
had other
And they both
jobs.
declined.
And that's it, that it's
Yeah.
not just, you're right, that
Right.
was it, it's not just even those, where we could recall, and they've gone elsewhere, and they've gone, no,
And our
I can't
financial situation
Right.
is too shaky for them, so.
make
Right.
a decision to come back here.
right,
And I think possibly some of them, if we would have been in the financial help we would have been, would have said, yeah, I want to come back to
Right.
Waterloo.
Right.
Because you know how most of them feel
Right.
about our district.
right. I agree. Okay, so emergency, we're all agreed on. What about the millage? I heard 3 5s. Brian, you said a 4.5 or 5, and Steve?
4.5 or 5, I think would be where we want to be.
Okay.
Are these numbers reflective of trying to maintain what we have right now?
This takes into account, these numbers, what this is. So I should explain what's on this screen to answer your question too. These numbers take in our 5-year forecast that was submitted to the state, adjusted with the actuals for the end of the fiscal year that was done in the last week before Todd left. And then this, you guys have the full sheet, and so I want to clarify what this is here. This is the end of a very, of a very long sheet that shows the projection and what it brings in. I want to clarify here that this middle column is not the dollar amount that amount brings in. This has to do with encumbrances that get carried over to the following year. This is just the end of the spreadsheet. I put this up here because it shows us the fiscal year and how far out we get in the black with this column. But everything that we have right now that's built into that 5-year forecast is carried forth in this. To everything, including that tripling of the pay to participate fees that you guys voted on in March. So that's all reflected in there. So this isn't bringing any additional positions back. Yet at the same time, this isn't cutting anymore either.
There are programmatic changes that take place in the public employee retirement system, with the teachers as well, as far as their retirement age and all that.
I don't think it's totally.
No,
They're trying, but
There's going to be,
Not going to be talking about it.
yeah, they're going to be bringing some meetings to address reform. So,
Because I didn't know if that had already changed because we were reflecting on the forecast.
The House has passed it, Ken, is that right, but the Senate is not dealing with it yet, it's one way or the
I
other.
think that's right.
yeah.
Okay, so,
So where are we at? Are we at
so
5?
are we at 5? Is that agreed? I like round numbers, is that good? 5?
So 5. So when we get it, it's okay. So when we get to the consent agenda, we'll add this to it. We'll lock the right one. And we'll add it to that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else in there?
No.
Okay, treasurer's report, do you have that?
No,
There's nothing to add to the
No,
consent
I just
agenda?
will add, I hope I gave justice to his thoughts there.
Yeah, I think so. But I talked to him on the phone, and Brian talked to him on the phone.
Yeah,
so
he's quiet.
We're pretty sure that's what he.
Hopefully he's not down there.
No one's phone's, I said, no one's phone's ringing, saying, I don't agree. Okay.
But I completely
So we're okay.
misrepresented him because I had the opportunity.
Yeah. You could have shaved your
Could be
head,
good.
you know, first. Okay, Diane Maplewood.
Last month was very short, very, very brief, nothing really going on, but here are the minutes, meeting last week.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, legislative. Ken?
Not too much. Andy stole my thunder. One of the, they are having some mid-biennium budget review meetings again, like Andy said, and I'll probably be trying to hit one of those at the end of this month. I know when I went to the original one, it was not the easiest to understand, and basically they didn't tell you anything because they didn't have anything to tell you. So hopefully I can get a little bit more involved with that. The governor did sign about a signed bill on the shared services report. So that's something that's exciting. I think there's 10 different points, and really there's less than a handful that are applicable. But those are things that I'm sure a lot of districts will be looking at, including ours. So we won't hash it out too much. We'll just, hopefully I can have good things to bring you next month from the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, under new or other business, we need to set a special meeting date for July.
So we were looking at, to give time, I think the auditor's office gets up to 5 or 6 days to turn this around.
Okay.
So we want to look at the week of July 23rd. And then in particular, Todd had mentioned that it would be best for him, if possible, to do either the 26th or the 27th. Doesn't have to be a night meeting. If a morning quick meeting like you guys did a couple of weeks ago works well. Even though I'm going to be there, I promise it'll be quick.
That's right, you weren't here at the last one. You were out in, I think, 6 minutes.
Yeah, if you have something else to do.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd wear your Mickey ears. Did you
Okay.
get some?
If you want to do the 26th, I can do 8 o'clock, or if not, in the evening.
Can you not do Friday?
I can do Friday, too.
It's Friday better for you then?
Friday morning?
Or Thursday morning, which one's better?
Friday would be cool.
Friday will work for me.
You want to do 8 a.m.? I talked to you at 4 to 7.
I hadn't gone to bed yet, Lisa.
You want to do
Okay.
8:30?
No.
8 works better for Diane, right?
Well,
8 or 8:30, I don't care.
Okay.
8:30 is fine.
8 o'clock on the
Yeah.
27th?
8:30?
8:30?
Ken, what would you rather?
All right, 8
Late is
o'clock.
late, I'll go with either one.
8 o'clock,
He has
make
to
it
go
8
to work
o'clock.
afterwards.
You gotta
8
go
o'clock?
You gotta go to work?
Okay, so we'll do it on Friday, July 27th at 8 a.m.
Should I reflect in the notes that Steve will retire?
He'll be in his pajamas.
I gotta take a nap because that's the start of my 35th class reunion weekend.
Oh, geez. Must be well rested. Okay. Anybody have anything else under new or other business?
I have something for years and years and years. People have complained about the sound system and stuff, and I know that compared to what we've been talking about here, money-wise or whatever,
You mean for the football?
yeah, for the stadium, Andy and I were at that alumni football game, and
Yeah, it's that.
it was really bad. So I just started doing some research on some stuff, and I put some numbers together just for whatever, $5,000 to $7,000 can get us in like filling. 7 would be installed somewhere in that area. That's all weatherproof. That
Is
would be
speakers or the whole sound?
speakers, the whole sound system.
And speakers wouldn't be right behind the people when...
They would be on, see,
They wouldn't be right behind the heads of the,
yeah,
away
they
side.
would, and that's where they need to be. But instead of those horns that give that high, tinny, crappy sound, these would be speakers, actual speakers with woofers and subwoofers and tweeters and this and that. And everything. It would give a good, mellow, easy listening sound.
So that would be something we could take out of the permanent improvement
Yeah,
fund
we're,
or the 034.
it would come out of, well, permanent improvement is where it would come out of. Permanent improvement may be 034, you know. If you give me that information, Steve, I have some conversations with Tom Getz on that too. One of the big issues is that those speakers are directed to the regular people who are sitting on that far side. So apparently it's really loud over there, really low on our side. You can't really turn it down the way that the system's set up, which is something I want to look at too.
Let me tell you something, you can turn every knob on that mixer and that amp in there and nothing changes.
It just seems like a
No.
pretty, I don't disregard, I'm not saying I don't believe that, it just seems crazy that system would be set up to be that way. So that's one.
It is, because I mean, every Friday night when I go up there and do that stuff.
So that's
it's
one piece I want to look at too, with the company that did it, why isn't it?
Well,
Why'd you give us all the knobs? Is it because it looks good?
the actual, well, you gotta understand, we had electricians do something, these are professional people that do this every day. And actually, the preferred setup would be no speakers on the visitor side, because they bounce at each other and it just echoes. And those horns are terrible. They're terrible, it's just irritating. But, I mean, I had to listen to it on that, especially that all-night football night, and it was just, everybody was complaining, and they were saying, you gotta do something, and I said, I can't even turn these knobs down. I went in there and turned every knob that there was, and unless there's a knob somewhere, a hidden one somewhere. So, it was just, and this is not even something I'm saying we even need to look at. I was just curious myself, because I deal with this thing a lot, I know Lee deals with it a lot. We've had a lot of complaints every Friday night when we're out there, I get somebody complaining.
You guys probably deal with it too.
Well,
Yeah,
and then also even in the soccer games, a lot of time, like senior night, the one year, they didn't work. So
right.
you couldn't hear anything anybody was saying for
Well,
senior night, so they didn't
The nice
work.
thing about this is these are very weatherproof. They would be easy to take down in the winter. Also, it is a portable system. So let's say, like if we're gonna have community day here, we always need a sound system. 2 bolts, you unhook the speakers and the mixer and the amp and everything is inside a cart. You put the lid on it, close it up, take it, and then you have a tripod that you stick the speakers on. You turn it, plug it in, you turn on, you have a speaker wherever, or a sound system wherever you need it. So it's portable. But they're nice designs. The unfortunate part is it's hard to go out and get quotes on stuff like that because there's not that many companies that have things. So, but I mean, even $5,000 to $7,000, 7 would be installed. That would be adding like an extra wireless mic and some little frills. But you know, this, you plug your computer, your MP3 right into it. You play your own music or you do whatever. It's something to think about or something to throw back. I will get you that information. They're gonna give me a better quote, but I can email you guys a website that I was looking at. But the preferred system is not to have speakers bouncing back at you, and that's what I told them guys when they were putting it there, because all you're doing is just, it's crashing. And it's making it even worse, so. We can start with 2 speakers, and then, but if you've been to Woodridge and you listen to them when they're playing the pregame music and stuff, I mean, it's like sitting in your car jamming, you know? You guys have heard it, and I mean, it's just not that that's all that important, but I mean, it is when you got a bunch of people out there and you don't have this screaming thing.
And I think their speakers are all on their own side.
Yeah.
I don't think they're on our side.
Yeah, I don't think it is either, so, and that's the kind of setup that this, and actually, I was kind of surprised it was that cheap. So,
Okay, so you two will get together.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Okay, anything, anybody have anything else?
are we going to discuss the pay to play?
Sure, you bring it up.
Well, I mean, Kara asked about it, and I've had other people ask about it, and I think that, you know, we just ought to give it one more shot. We ought to see one time what we want to do. She sat there and asked, I don't want to walk out of here not talking about it. So, yeah, I know.
Brian,
Well, I mean, you're not the
set
only
with-
one that said something, so.
Brian sat with, keeping it, what, Diane, Ken? Living centers?
This, I've struggled over this. I mean, I really know that the $300 is a lot. And it is impacting our community, and it's impacting our kids. And I want them to be involved with the sports, and I want them, and I know that there are families in the community that are making decisions, what they will play and what they can't. And that's a shame. It's a real shame. And I feel it's somewhat responsible that we've maybe failed them. But when you look at the numbers, you know, we have to understand that even with that $300, that's not going to pay for the programming. We are still kicking in a significant amount of money. And, you know, any reduction of those funds are really going to come out of somewhere else. And
Can I ask, what does $100 give to $100 for every athlete? What's the amount that you make
We,
40,
approximately? Because I know you can't judge
No,
how many
that's- you're-
athletes are going to be.
we budgeted in with the initial amounts that were decided back in November of 10, $54,000.
Is $100.
Okay, is what 100 at the high school, 50 at the middle. When
Does
we
that
take,
include band
with
and those
everything.
extra? Okay.
when we take a look at the actual costs for extracurricular activities as a whole, non-athletic and athletic, after pay to participate, after gate receipts, after other expenses and income, we are paying out, I think last year was $218,000 out of our general operating fund, is what the expense was to the district to run the
Before you
programs.
collected the pay.
No, after. And so when we look at increasing the 3 times amount, we projected a decrease of 30% in participation numbers. Whether that's high or low, no. We've talked to other districts that had similar numbers and seemed like a good number to go with. That still puts us, even with that increased money, at it's about 180,000, a little over, that the district will subsidize out of general operating funds to cover the expenses after everything is taken in. And so, yeah, I think as you sit here and ponder this, I just want to make sure that you understand that what you come in here and talk about tonight is not lost on me, and I'm certain it's not lost on the board. What I'm trying to do is look out for what is the best way to balance all of this.
Well,
And you'll have
My biggest
people,
concern was it went from 1 to 3,
but
like that.
but there's people, when you take a look at this on a broad scale,
Right.
you have people on the extreme that the district should pay nothing for extracurriculars. We don't have to provide those. It's not required by Ohio Revised Code. That seems like an extreme point of view. Extracurriculars are critical. They're important. They are.
Very.
On the other extreme, you have people that say, board, shame on you for charging anything, you know. And then we're trying to look at where can we go in the middle when we've done all of these cuts in the classroom and other areas that help to impact that. $300 is high, but it's not as high as it could be.
What about those students that we're going to lose to Ritztown and Southeast? Is that all forecasted in? Because that's going to be,
Well-
$300
But
is
the
nothing
thing,
compared to.
yeah, but the thing that I would say on that too, and I don't want to dominate this discussion, if I need to be quiet, please let me know. But the thing I would say to that is that when we've had discussions about this, the 3 months, we had discussions January, February, and finally March, there was action. We have just, I personally, and I'm not saying by any means that this is the across the board thing, I've had more people, in that survey had more people express concern about the academic side and withdrawing their
I
kids.
agree with that too.
So
I mean,
we're trying to figure out a way of how can we keep as much for these kids in all areas as we can for as long as we can. And 300 is where we settled on thinking at the time that was a good amount. Is it steep and drastic for the community? Absolutely. But when we look at the impact that's having on the other areas where all these cuts are coming from too, we're asking a lot, but in the grand scheme of the overall budget, it's actually a little. And yeah, we try to factor that stuff in. It's hard to do. You don't know for
You
sure.
can't put academics against athletics. I mean,
It's not.
They got to complement each other.
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
one of
And
them.
so we've tried to strike that balance, and I realize that there's people that think that what I've recommended to you hasn't struck that balance. But in my mind, we're trying to hang on as long as we can to all of these things. And
I think though that the impact of pay to play impacts most of your people that are voting for the levy. And what we need to impact is maybe some more of those people that aren't voting for the levy. You know, there's some districts that completely take away busing. And within 6 months, their levy's passed. Because it's an impact to everybody, instead of just impacting sports, you know, or band, or choir, or, you know, extracurricular activities, which is not a huge handful of people from the community. Because it doesn't affect elementary, really. Couple things, not for the most part. In middle school, you know, but your elementary, so you have K through 5, that are almost in the 6th grade, they're not really impacted for pay-to-play fees.
they're not impacted on that, but
They're impacted a little bit on academics, but not a whole lot.
I would suggest that they're greatly impacted on the academic end
Well,
with
their
class
classes are a little
sizes and
bigger,
with
but the
support.
classes are small.
With support. And I think, you know, in the concern and the suggestion you have about how to do that, other people have said the same thing. And I've told the board before here at these meetings, hey, my job is to do my best to look out for what's best for the kids.
I agree.
And I don't believe in getting caught up in games of feel the pain to pass a levy. I think we have to hold off and do what we can do to offer to these kids as much as we can for as long as we can. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe that type of an approach is more of what the community needs, but it's definitely not what's in the best interest of the kids. And as we've seen here, while we're struggling, and there's definitely impacts happening, you know, there's ways that we can do these things to maximize our efficiency with busing. If we were to eliminate high school busing and within a 2-mile radius, we would actually bring in less money from the state. We'd lose money. And so, you know, so the only reason that we would do something like that is to make parents think twice about voting for a levy. Is that really the right reason to do those things?
It may come to that, you don't know, you hope it doesn't, but.
Even if the state came in here and took over, I've asked them, I don't think they would force the district to do state minimum busing because it doesn't fiscally make sense for the district to do.
What was Richmond's paper president?
It was 100, it never went to 300. It was always 100.
They had,
It's 100.
I think it's 0.
It's
No, it's
I think we.
No, it's 0.
Yes.
When I did that report back in
When
January,
they
where
passed
we
the
looked at
levy.
all the surrounding districts, we only had
It
one,
never went to 300. Correct.
we only had one district
Like
surrounding
many
us,
times.
touching us that actually
No.
charges fees, and that's Field. I think Fields is at 300.
Yeah.
The others around us don't buy.
On that question, it was stated when we had the managers that a payment plan was going to be implemented. And because the question that we were asked payment, this is a suggestion, take it wherever you want to go. If you have the statement of payments and they sign the document or whatever that says, yes, I intend to play and I will pay, if at the end of the school year you haven't paid, you don't graduate. I mean, it's just, that would be an incentive to state that you would know that you can make payment throughout the year, and $300 people, me being one, that if I have to pay $300 to pay, my kid wants to play both band and soccer, bam, $600, that's a lot to ask. But if you say, okay, but you come May, I'm sorry, you haven't paid, we're gonna hold it. I don't know if that can be implemented or not, but this is something that could be stated.
We've had that discussion before. The biggest thing with that is that even school fees, if school fees aren't paid, you don't graduate. And we have kids that haven't graduated because they didn't pay school fees. It's not really a threat. The treasurer's department, the treasurer's department, or treasurer Todd has worked with people on that. So if you have an issue, you go in and talk to him and he worked with that. But we discussed it last month, the idea of the payments was that it was still to be payments made, but still to be made to be completed by the time the sports start.
Okay, because when we had boosters meeting last time, that's one of the things that Adam was not quite sure because we're going to be sending out letters to these kids. So then the question is, full payment before first game?
The way that the way that the guidelines are written right now, what is out there, what was out there last year, what was put out to, I think the students got them again this spring, it states that they have to pay before their first contest. And a contest is what OHSAA defines as a contest, which is either a scrimmage or a game.
So the band would be the first game.
With groups, with clubs that are not athletic type things, it's by their second meeting.
Can that be looked at?
Yeah, we talked about that last month. That, for what it's worth, we've, and again, I'll make this statement before I say what I say. I'm not suggesting that we haven't had kids that didn't go out for athletics because of pay to participate fees. I'm not suggesting that there haven't been financial reasons. I can tell you that as far as people calling over to the board office and asking can they make payments, we've had people do that, and we've set up those systems with them, and we usually have it so that they're done somewhere at a reasonable point of the season so that there's some kind of leverage, because you would think what you suggest would make a difference. High school, for example, I think uncollected school fees for those kids is like $8 grand. And those are just class supply fees. So for a lot of people, for one reason or another, that's not leverage for them. I've also can tell you that there's never been anybody that's called over there that said, hey, we can't afford to pay for this. That no one's ever called and said that. And if we've had in the past, other places like that, if we had situations like that, we work to try to find a donor for that type of a person. So you can never gauge a kid that doesn't come out for a sport. It's hard to do because of those fees. But I can tell you, we're definitely not receiving phone calls from people saying we can't pay for it and not participate. It doesn't mean it's not happening. But I would like to think that if we started to get those phone calls, we would do what we could to try to work to find ways to help assist those families, whether it was payments or whatever that we could do. So no one's opposed to that, but I think the norm that we'd like to see is you pay it by that point for some reason, we're reasonable people, and we'll work with that, and we have.
If we were to keep it at 300, can we come up with something official to help these people?
Well, let's get back to, do we want to keep it at 300?
Well, there's a lot, I know that it seems like that we beat this thing up, but I still keep getting asked about it. I know Kara was here, and
Well, what I
by
was
no
going to say,
means,
you don't get phone calls, but we do.
I absolutely do not want to see the academics take a back seat. as much as I love sports, that cannot happen. You know, I mean, we
I
can't let
agree
that
the
happen.
same as you about the academics, has to be our focus, but.
But
you
we
know,
sat
it's-
in here and
It is
said
beating
that,
me to death, and I know
Right.
that the community that I've talked to, it is making a real impact on them and their families, and I don't like it either, and I wish it would change, and I just don't know what the good answer is.
All right, let me put it to you this
Because there
way,
isn't
and then
no
we can,
halfway point.
we
No, there
can,
isn't.
we can quit kicking this horse. If people come up and say, look, is there a way that I can make payments? Can I say, call Andy and we can, or call Todd
Yeah.
and we can try to arrange it?
Yes, yes. If people come up and say, do you have some pot of money that I can have and I'll pay my payments? I can say, we'll do our best to try to work and see what we can do, but I can't promise that we're going to come up with.
No, I'm not saying give them money.
Understand.
What I'm saying is, can we help? I mean, we gotta be able to give them something.
yeah, but Steve, there are people in this community that have so much pride. All they have to do is fill out a piece of paper in the high school office, and they don't have to pay their school fees, and their kids eat lunch for free, and they absolutely won't do it. They won't do it.
Well, I'm proud, but I ain't stupid.
Well, I'm saying, there are a lot of people, the ones that don't pay their fees, there's a lot of those people that are like that. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying that's how it is. I mean, reality, and just because I've, been through that, tried to help people that are in that situation, tried to get them to fill out the piece of paper, and they absolutely won't do it because they think there's a stigma attached to it. And I think that, you might have a few do that, but I'm pretty sure that's why Andy's not getting phone calls, because they just won't do it. And I don't know how, I mean, I have put the paper in front of them, trying to help them
If you
out.
graduate from the school, everyone, all
They
those
won't
kids
do it.
know which kids have to do that. So you won't do it. Their parents won't do it.
No.
Their kids won't let them do it.
They won't do it. So I mean, it's, because, even though we have that available, and Todd is willing to do that, and Andy's willing to do that, I don't think that that's really, I mean, it's a great thing, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I just don't. In my years of experience, trying to get them, I mean, $45 for their school fees. All they have to do is fill out a piece of paper. They won't do it, and their kid won't graduate. And they won't do it. I don't know why, that's just how it is. But I think that we've sat here and said, of course academics are the most important. We've also sat here and said that athletics is part of a well-rounded education. It's part of socialization, it's part of all of that. We fought for the 1.0 grade point average for kids so that they can stay in sports. And chances are the ones that have the 1.0 so they can stay in sports, their parents can't afford $300. So on one hand, we're saying we want them to stay in sports. We want to keep that 1.0 so they can. And on the other hand, we're saying, yeah, you can play if your academics aren't great, but you got to give us $300 to play. And they can't do it. So, I mean, I've struggled just as much. I mean, it's just, when we've had a history here of when we make decisions, we make every decision since I've been on, based on the financial, what's happening in school. And we've been able to pull out 16 and a half years on the levy. But at the same time, when we made that decision to make it 300, we were in a different situation. And like I say, just all the stars aligned and somehow it worked out. And I know that down the road, $16,000 is going to make an impact. But at this point, that $16,000 could make or break our golf program. Right now, we don't have enough for a JV soccer or girls or boys team. We don't have enough for a golf team, cross country. We're talking about programs that will be gone. And I know that education is more important, but right now, where we stand for the next 2 years, we don't have to make those cuts in those programs. We don't have to make. And another thing that that bothered me too was, we have teachers that have taken a pay freeze, they have paid more for insurance, we have all our staff that's taken a pay freeze. And I have heard from at least 5 coaches that said, please lower it. You know, because of the quality of teachers that we have here that are our coaches, they care more about the kids than their own money. And, you know, when they come to you and they're begging you to make it $200, you're sitting there going, you know, come on, you know, you want to just reach out and hug them because of the kind of people they are. But at the same time, you know, what I said to them was, well, you guys made you made a conscious effort to help our schools. And they say, yes. And I say, well, but shouldn't the parents help out? It's their kids that are getting educated. He said, yeah, but they also want their kids to get a well-rounded education, and they think sports is part of that. So I've been the same way. It's just been a struggle and a struggle. As far as my child's concerned, it has nothing to do with mine, because they only got one and he only plays one sport. So it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter that way. So I know a lot of people say that there's 4 of us on the board that have kids in the school right now. And that is not, I don't think in any way that's changing any of our opinions. I don't think any of us are basing our opinions on
No,
that.
I mean, I wish we could lower it, I really do, because I feel the pain, I know. And what I don't think is fair, and, you know, maybe this is not proper of me to say, but I have one child that wants to play 3 sports, that's $900. My sister has 4 kids, they can do whatever they want for $1,000. I don't think that's fair either. You know, you're capping it out, $1,000 a family. Well, I got 1 kid. I pay $900. I will be paying $900 this year for her to play 3 sports. Do I think that's fair? You got 1 kid that probably is going to be in 3 sports.
At least.
And I don't think that's fair either. So where do we go with this? You know, you're capping out families that have all these kids at $1,000, and I'm paying $900 for one.
That's true.
So that sucks too, you know? What do? I totally feel your pain.
You're lucky you're in a position to make a decision on that. We're not,
It's a tough decision. It is.
you know?
It is, and I see both ways, and this has been beating me up too, and we had a discussion about it last night. I totally understand, but I understand both ways. It's a torn decision, it really is, because you do want what's best for the kids.
Well, that's
You
the
do want
bottom
the
line.
academic.
It's for what, it's the kids.
And in the long run, I guess when I finally came down to the last thing was, my final thought was, if we can get 5, 10, 15, 20 more votes, because it comes down to if the levy passes, we don't have to, you know, we can ease a little bit with all these horrible decisions we're having to make. If we can get that many more votes from lowering it to 200, then that's why I say I think we should.
Do you think it's,
You may lose those, by the way.
You may.
I mean, there is no, unfortunately, there's no win here. It's a lose or a lose.
It is.
It's a lose-lose situation. It's kind of weird. I've been thinking about this a lot also, and we said, I just happened to have, for some reason in my book, I didn't even know I had it, back from our issue in November of 2011. One of the things that was on this card, if it doesn't pass, paid participation fees will increase to the new amounts at a minimum, and it was basically 3 times, $300 for high school, $150 for middle school. We didn't follow through on that, right?
That was for November.
That was for November of
It was
2011.
a different board.
Different board. March of 2012, earlier, whenever the first time was this year, we said, we had another little postcard, and we said the same thing. And we talked about in January, February, March, we were so concerned about it that we actually had Todd put a 70% factor in that we're going to lose some number of kids because we're not going to get. So, I mean, it's not like we went into this with blinders, right?
No, right.
I mean, we knew all the repercussions. We talked about it for 3 months. And we decided, I believe it was unanimous vote to do it.
It was.
And I just don't know, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but I don't know how we can back off. I mean, our financial situation is better than it was, but it's still pretty bleak. I mean, if we don't pass a levy this year, looking, if this was from a year ago, 5 mil levy that year turned into a 7.9 mil levy next year. So I'd have to say, if we don't pass it in 2012, then in 2013, the millage to do the same thing is going to be go from 5 mils to 7.95 mils, and again, we're way out, we're up there in the big number. It's terrible. If you look at all we've done, we would have cut the state minimum busing there. Well, we would have had an awful big battle about it, I'm sure, but the main reason we didn't do that is because the most economical thing for us to do was actually better for us financially to go to one run.
No, I understand, I just was making it,
Right.
that was my for instance for the whole
Right.
buddy being effective. That would, could be something else, but I
Right.
mean, everybody.
If you look at the impact of that, our bus drivers went from 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, to 2.5 hours. We look at our staff, our administrators haven't had an increase for 3 or 4 years. Our teachers haven't had an increase for 3. The support staff, Oakley hasn't had an increase for 2 or 3 years. The secretary of union has had an increase for 2 or 3 years. We've lost good people, like Laura said. We look at what we had with, we're going to accept the resignation of 2 teachers, one of which was a graduate of Waterloo, very special kid to me. He's a first class kid all the way. All of them were special, but his dream was, as he was going through school, was to graduate and come back and teach at Waterloo. We're accepting his resignation today because tonight, for the simple reason that there's not enough job security here, and hey, everybody's got to take care of your family. And we had 2 teachers decline a recall because they thought we were too unsafe. And we look at all the things we've done, all the things we've cut, and I just think that we're in the same situation. I would bet you every nickel I have that our scores this year when the report card come out are not going to be as good because at the primary school we're sitting at between 30 and 35 kids in a classroom.
Brian, may I add to those things, of all the things we've cut, we have not cut any sports.
Well, I'm just saying that there's just so many things.
I'm going to say the unpopular thing here. We have not cut any sports. We have cut what we can do in our classroom.
The one thing we have done is we've
You
cut
say academics
some
is important.
secondary, we've
Well,
cut
we
some
keep
assistant
cutting.
coaches. We have cut assistant coaches. But you're right, we
We
haven't cut.
haven't cut the sports.
We had our $100 increase in our, so to me, we're still in bad shape. We're not as bad as we were, but there's a hole in the boat. And unless the community passes a levy, the boat's sinking. And I just think that we have to continue on the path we started because, it's 16,000 this year, next year it's 32, the third year it's 48, the next year it's 60, the next year it's 72, I mean, compounding, doesn't sound like a lot of money the first year, but 6 years into that, it's 72 grand. That's 2 teachers in the class, 3 teachers in the classroom. 2 or 3. Sorry, go ahead.
I've got to applaud the comment that Steve made January, February, when it first came up, and the ingenuity to create the mulch program that the boys did. And he made the comment that the camaraderie of those guys working outside the sport and working in knowing that what they were doing was going to earn some money to offset those fees. And I think maybe as opposed to making that decision, is that we need to challenge ourselves, can we do more of that? Can we find more of those things that get those folks involved to realize that it's not just putting on the pads and going out and playing on the field, there's something else involved that we can have the opportunity to do that. It doesn't take a whole lot, burn $200 to $300 in some kind of a fundraising event.
Right.
When you're talking about, what, 54,000, did you say? It's the total that you're earning out of this. I mean, 4 or 5 fundraisers during the year can generate that. And I know the athletic boosters do a lot already, because they pay for uniforms, pay for a lot, they do a lot of things already. But to have the boys, the girls actively involved in something that they understand they're working for something. We're working for something today, creating that camaraderie that Steve talked about, and the end result is that they're getting that $300 that they have some pride in, that, gosh, I worked for that, I can do that, and now I can go out, strap one of those pads, put on the basketball, and I can go out and play. And that goes back to Brian, that keeps the integrity of the board. You do your due diligence, you had to make that decision, but then we as a community come together as the parents of these kids and try to find more of the multi programs and more things to pull those kids together outside the sport to earn something and to be involved. I think one of the objectives that you had was to get more community involvement for the students
And that's
to
the big
graduate.
thing here. Huge, huge thing here. It's always the same.
It's the same
Well, I know
people.
it is, and, I mean, that's the challenge of us, is to get more people involved, realize that, you know, if you can't afford the $300, you can earn those credits by doing these things.
That's the way
And
we've always felt, and the flip side of that coin is, and we've got backlash. You know, they feel like, well, we're getting punished, you know, they're gonna punish us, we're gonna have to pay this $300. What's wrong with you doing fundraisers, for these kids? I mean, if they do that, they're not gonna vote for levies. That's the.
Yeah, I people say that.
No, I believe you.
Unbelievable.
I've heard some things.
And what they don't, just, as I said, those kids work so hard, and they earn every cent that they make. And then out of the $300 for the football players, I think as of right now, they have a little over $100 of that $300 deducted from doing all, from what we make. But I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not, my whole feeling about the whole situation is, I think it was just such a dramatic jump in this short period of time from 100 to 300. And I think that's what kind of put some people at, okay. And then as the other person, the person sitting here as a person voting for a levy. If I saw the levy, and yes, we both voted for the levy back when it was on, and it was 7.95, is that correct? They're gonna go and see another levy and it's dropped. And they're gonna see, well, the pay to play is up to 300, what's going on here? They've cut all these teachers, so there's still some explanations that are gonna have to be made when it comes to these community members, and they don't understand. So that's the other side of it too, where you're kind of making everybody kind of understand, well, hey, this is what we've gotten, so we can lower the millage and be at 5 mil, and even though it says it's an emergency levy, that's the right way to go. But you still have that $300 that was smacked in everybody's face in March.
Tara, I've also heard exactly what Brian said too. Well, if you drop it to 200,
I
you must
agree.
not need my money. And
Well,
it's just,
it's a compromise. I think it's a halfway.
There
I mean-
was people that said we were wasting money when we were on board because we didn't implement all these cuts that are out there now, that don't realize that these cuts
We
are
have the
tremendous
thing
impact.
when she was there,
The Chevron people were.
the Chevron people, so, I mean, that was a huge thing. I mean,
But people say, why did we make all these cuts years ago? We can have 30 people in the classroom. I've had people say that to me, well, you guys weren't. And we've, every superintendent that's ever been around, everybody I've ever worked with said that we've operated so lean. Andy, I think, was shocked when he came in. But people just, you know, there's a lot of, if they want to find an excuse to vote no, it's pretty easy to find something.
what bothers me is that I've been around here since 1999, and I've been associated with so many of these teachers, and I hate for these people not to be able to come to work and concentrate on their class, and, you know, not have to think about, well, you know, maybe I won't be here next year, or you know, I mean, that's, I remember when teachers were held in high regard, and right up there with, you know, you had God, and then you had teachers, and then everybody else. And it's not that way anymore, and I don't know where, you know, that's gone awry, but I can semi-control things here at Waterloo, and I think that, you know, these people need to be put back up on these pedestals where they were, and shown the respect. You know, they work hard. My niece just graduated. You know, 5 years, she's going to be teaching special ed somewhere in Eden, something over by Indiana. You know where that's at? It's well, I thought you were shaking your head. I thought they go along with you. Or were you nodding? You tend to nod a lot when I talk. But I mean, it's just, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I've lost a lot of sleep, I'm sure, as everybody else has. I just don't know what to do. I would like to cut it, but that's 16 grand. That's half a teacher's pay.
It is, but in my mind, the board has an opportunity to be a hero, and say, hey, we're not gonna jack it up 200% on you.
Right.
We're gonna meet you halfway and give you an opportunity, and, I mean, we hear it from everybody.
But at the same time, whenever we took the levy off, the 7.95 off, we got slack for that too. You shouldn't have taken it
Oh, I
off.
know.
You should have, you
It's
know,
a tough
well, we
decision.
took it off so we can make it lower in November. We're trying to reach out for that, and then, that's why I say, I mean, you're right, Brian. I mean, we could lose those also.
See, that's the bad thing about a lot of decisions.
You don't have a
we're making.
crystal ball.
There's just as many people out there that say that athletics should be self-funded as there are that say, and you know, everybody, hopefully you guys know which side of the fence I'm on, but I've always loved athletics. That was the major reason I got through school, and it's very critical to the whole entire education process. However, we made this decision, and I just think to back off of it would be sending the wrong message. It's sending a message maybe we don't have the need. That's what people will say.
Well, they said the same thing when we took the 7.95 off. So,
Yeah, the community coming to
Have you
us.
let you know that you're gonna take payments? I mean, because if that's restated out there, that.
anybody that's asked me, I've told them that.
So I'm just saying, so that being said, that payment could be.
But I still think, I mean, we haven't cut academics. I mean, we haven't cut
No, I'm not saying
we
that
haven't
you
cut
said-
athletics, but there are going to be 3 less teams this year if it stays at 300.
But
So we haven't cut them, but there are
if you look at it, like last year, golf had
8.
8. This year they got 3.
Well, Jim Conley is still saying that the team sits at 8.
Oh.
I heard 4.
But he's an optimist.
But Conley, I went back to him on the list he sent me, and there was one kid he said dropped off and another one that he forgot to put on.
But you have to have 5.
In boys cross country last year, we had 2, right?
Yeah, one graduate.
And 1 graduate, so we got 1 left.
We won't.
I mean,
Mike Boley told me last night that he's got 41 kids showing up for camp. He's working on 2 others that want to just play basketball. He had 47 last year. So that's the only one. I've talked to Brock Dreyer. I've been trying to get hard numbers on some of these other things. And
See, that's a different number than I got.
Yeah.
I got a 34.
That's also a program that's
I am
7 and 3.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at the pinnacle right now with the football program.
those are the numbers Boley told me. And I've tried to get numbers on the soccer programs and stuff. Brock's comments to me with soccer have been that it's too early to tell. And Boley seems to be pretty confident that the number he shared is going to be where he is. Everybody else needs to wait till the beginning of August when it's actually practice time and see who actually shows.
I mean, I know my son was a junior and senior, and we played with some travel teams and played with kids out of Cleveland. And a lot of the schools, I was shocked, 100%, whatever it costs, like if they played $575 to play baseball because they knew exactly what every game cost, what every ride cost, because if you want to have a schedule of 16 games, it costs this. If you want 18 games, it costs this. And here's what your participation fee would go up. And it was 100% self-funded.
The school was?
No, the sport
Oh.
was funded, I mean, the school paid nothing for their athletics.
Okay, well, that's
You know,
what
it was
I
Parma
meant,
City
yeah.
schools. I mean, it's not like it was,
Well, because they only had 5 hours of school too, 4.5 hours of school, because they went to reading, writing, math, and science. They were only there for 4.5 hours, because they had to cut everything back that far. So,
and travel teams, if you play travel softball, travel baseball, $500-600 if you're on the team. And that's to be on that, just an okay team. I don't know what hot stove ball is anymore. I mean, it used to be $60. I don't know what it is.
well, Brian's to keep, do we want to continue the discussion, or will we?
Diane, what do you do?
Ken?
We're the turning point.
No, I'm a mother. For that guilt out.
It's got nothing to do with being a guild or a hero or anything
No,
else.
he's
what's best for these kids.
It is, and, you know, there's different, every person has a different opinion of what's best for them. When you're dealing with 8,000 people.
Steve? What's your thought?
I would like to drop,
No, drop it?
but you know, I don't know. There's a million reasons to and a million reasons not to.
Right, we talked about, okay, if the levy passes, do we continue to do that? $300. Now, are we, well, I'm getting confused, okay, we agreed now on doing the emergency levy. Are we going to do the same thing, like if the levy passes, are we going to drop that, or do we agree to keep it $300 all the way through? Where it is?
Those calculations?
Calculations stay where they
So even
at.
if the levy passes, the pay the base stays that way.
Well, that's what's
That's
calculated
currently,
in there.
that's what currently
Yeah,
stands.
you're good luck.
The
Good
board,
luck if you're gonna lose,
the board,
lose the other half.
we can't do projections on a 5-year forecast showing that a levy's passing. So as such, we can't project in there that there's going to be that money. So if everything that we have stays as it is. That being said,
Leave
there's-
that part out.
What was that?
I said I'd leave that part out. Try to pass your
Henry,
levy.
I mean, and this is what's crazy. I mean, Tara, you've been here. This budget thing is just like,
Changes
it
hourly.
changes constantly.
I know.
But people have to understand too, you get what you pay for, and there's ramifications for not passing it, and this is not your issue, or my issue, or Diane's issue, this is a community issue. And we need community dollars, and we need community support, and by us saying, yes, take it down to 200 or take it down to 100, that's support from us, but that's not support from the community. And we have to run this as a community endeavor. So,
And just to be fair to the question that Diane was asking here, when I believe that stuff was passed in March, it was with the understanding that if the levy passed in August, that it was going to go back to, as a matter of fact, the resolution, maybe I read something like that, I don't have it here in front of me.
I think that we just said that we would revisit it.
Okay. But there was that discussion the whole time.
Right.
That it would be revisited as what the amount would be if there was a successful levy attempt. So,
and that's not to say we can't make a change or determination if the levy goes through.
Because we've always been doing continuing. This is the first time we're doing
But,
emergency.
yeah,
This is where I'm getting confused.
No, we
Because I-
did one.
We talk so much about this whole process that we've gone, I mean, but when we have discussed, if we pass the levy, you know, we could reduce it back, and I would be in favor of that. If we pass a levy,
well,
I think
we can
everybody's
revisit
under
it.
the other assumption.
I mean, that
But
would
the
be,
thing is, you figure out in August,
well, it's gonna cost us $5,000, I think.
Well, the other
Yeah,
thing
it's
too,
extra.
and this is another thing that people have said, because when we first put on the $100, the fall sports did not have to pay that. We didn't go back and collect that.
last year or the first year? Okay.
So if we were, because Brian talked about refunds for everybody. Another thing that a couple people have said, that the first year, those fall sports didn't have to pay anything. So if it were to pass in November, then you would start with the winter sports, not, you know, you would lower it back and not have the winter sports pay. So that's another thing that people have said. And it's not completely fair because you're talking 300 to 100, but you're still,
It's, I mean, whatever, you know, I would have no problem with, you can refund 100 to the people that paid, and we could make it 200, or we could start from there forward. I think that people need to, I mean, 2.5 years is a little long to hold on to when the fee started and who had to pay.
oh, but they are.
Well, they need to, you know,
Well, they need to go for a letter too, and they're not
Thank you.
doing it, so.
yeah, so, I mean, if you want to find something negative, it's pretty easy to find anywhere in the world. Just
Oh,
walk
yeah.
outside, you can find something negative.
Right. Right.
But, I mean.
If the lines are right, it ain't gonna matter anymore.
There's 150, there's just as many positive things in the world and in our school system, even, I think there's more positive than negative. If you want to, all you have to do is want to see them.
There is a lot of positives. Ken, so you're at
I'm at 300.
Okay.
Leave it.
Things.
For the month, right? I'm still a little confused.
Till the
on
election.
this. Okay, till the election.
And then it can
Okay.
be revisited.
Okay, okay.
So we're not doing anything that you make.
And part of this is our fault, guys.
It is.
I mean, because what happened is we passed that resolution and we keep breaking, so people kind of start getting used to
Because
it.
it's a touchy
And
issue.
it's a scab, and then we keep, it starts to heal for a month, and then we pick it.
Yeah.
The first Thursday of the month, then it heals for another month, and then
No one
we pick it
wants to
some
make
more.
that decision. Just like you didn't want to make any more
I mean, we need to-
decisions to make any more cuts so that the state comes in. No one wants to make this
I
decision.
mean,
No
we
one
need to
wants to
stop
hurt
picking this
these people.
scab and get on with it. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we should, I mean, this, we need to make up our mind tonight.
Well, then I guess we don't come in here anymore and have any comments or say anything.
No, it's not you, it's our board's fault. We made this decision, we made this decision 8 months ago, essentially, maybe even a year ago. And we need to stick, right? That's-
I don't know exactly.
But when we made the decision about busing, we didn't have anybody come in and complain about that. When we made the decision about, whatever, I mean, I don't know, all the cuts that we were making, getting rid of, we didn't have anybody come in and
See,
complain.
what I do.
This
then
subject is a
For you guys,
subject,
those are the things I get the calls on. I
Yeah.
still get calls on busing.
but they don't come in
I
here.
still get calls on, yeah. But those are the ones that I do get. You know, the bottom line with this is the whole thing sucks.
It
You're
does.
right.
And there's no good that comes out of any of this. It's just a matter of looking at the bigger picture of how do we eliminate this deficit? And where do you share the pain from to keep as much as you can for as long as you can?
Well, and the
This
other thing-
isn't, in my mind, this has never been, nor ever will be, a tactic to get people to vote
No, it has nothing
or
to do
let it.
with that.
This is strictly trying to do our best to try to give opportunities to kids at a time where we don't have money and we're having to cut left and right. And it just stinks. And
Well, and another factor too is that we have a football coach and a football program and parents in the football program that have been in there for a while. So they know, they've got their stuff together and they know that they need to help these kids so that they can play.
We
We've
know
got
those kids are going to
3 new
school.
coaches this year
Right.
that, we've got 3 new
Because
coaches.
we have the youth program, the middle school
Yeah.
program. We know where those kids are going, to Southeast Jerusalem,
Yeah.
to get AP classes, to get teachers that aren't specializing in math, teaching English,
We don't
to
have.
play
anybody-
sports that they don't have to.
We don't have anybody specializing in math teaching usually.
everybody that we have in the subject areas are highly qualified for their
Oh,
subject
yeah, they're highly
area.
qualified, but they're not really.
But we have new,
But
what I would say
the other
is we have new coaches that don't know that that's an issue in the community. They just come into the community, you know, they're new coaches, so they don't know, you know, we have a new soccer, girls soccer coach, new boys soccer coach, we have a new volleyball coach. Those coaches don't realize what the impact of this $300 jump has done to these kids. So they're not in the position to help out those parents like football is, you know? So you guys started that last May. Well, these coaches weren't even hired until May. So that's the other impact that it has, and it does impact football, but it also impacts these other teams that they're not getting any help at all because their coaches aren't aware that that's what's going on. So you've got that issue too, so.
To be fair to comment, we have people, everybody that we have is licensed and qualified
Sure.
in the state.
Yeah,
That
I
being
know,
said,
I know some of
that
our
being
teachers-
said, we've talked before at these meetings about the fact that because of these cuts, we've moved people into areas that they haven't
And they're
taught for
very
years.
upset, and they're probably not.
Yeah, and so, but all of that goes together into this big picture. You mean everything you just said are reasons that people potentially could leave us. And while we're trying to fight all of those reasons and give people the opportunity to want to stay here, the money thing makes it harder and harder to do that across the board. We're fighting a battle that we can't win right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I just want to get people
I
on
understand.
board to vote for our levy I mean, I've been here almost my whole life.
Listen, you guys do a ton for the school and for the community, and we realize that.
If they're leaving and saying it is a pay-to-play reason, and we as a community have let them down because our math teachers didn't teach them well enough. Because if they're gonna pay $10 a week for 40 weeks, drive play for free, it's costing more than the.
Well, it's just,
amount of play.
it's just, I don't think that it's so much that, it's the fact that, hey, Richtown didn't pass 6 levies, and they never gave, put $300 on them. I mean, why should we take?
But they
why should
did,
we-
Henry, that was the next thing on, it was gonna be $500.
And
That was the next thing.
academically,
I know, we stood to gain the living boys.
So when we went to 300, we thought that was, it wasn't a threat, but we thought, okay, they're gonna pass this one, they have to pass this one, and they didn't. So, I mean, but they threatened to go
Yeah,
to
I had my fingers
500.
crossed that they didn't pass, because we were gaining a lot
Yeah.
of good students and
Yeah.
athletes. I mean,
Right,
Martin understood the
right.
benefits, so believe me.
I'm sure they're doing the same
My
thing.
fingers that it did, so.
I'm
there's
sure,
been a lot of information come out in the last 2 or 3 months academically, that I personally think that the school system academically, up to this, in this last year, I think that we are going to see some of the results of all the cuts. But I think that I think it's probably maybe the best we've ever been. I mean, we look at the study done by the Portage County that said that our students were the best prepared. Our students had to take fewer college remedial classes than any other school in the county, including Solon. We looked at how the report cards were scored when they compared us. We were the best school in the county with report cards based on the new system above Solon. We were tied with schools like Hudson, Chagrin Falls. I mean, we were tied or better than all the great, what I consider to be the really cream of the crop schools. I think we were better than Jackson. We were better than North Canton. We were better than Hudson, or we were tied with Hudson. I mean, just all of that. I mean,
Those are all
academic.
G1s.
Yeah, I mean, and our report card score was better than theirs. So, I mean, I think, and that's the thing that makes us so frustrating is the fact that academically, we finally got there. I think we finally reached the excellent distinction, and then boom, here we go. We get this big financial crunch, and all of a sudden we cut $2 million, which basically is about 20% of our budget. I mean, go home and cut 20% out of your household budget and see what your dinners change like and how many times you go out, what your quality of life is. Well, we cut 20% out of this, and what the quality of our education is. I mean, our teachers are great, our administrators are great. Everybody's doing more. We couldn't ask for better support from everybody, but it's going to suffer, and that's just the thing that just tears me up.
it is. And the worst part about it is we're the ones making the decisions, and we're the ones that are supporting the levy and out there pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it's not an easy job.
A 5 mil levy is $12 a month. It's $144 a year, right?
About $100,000 house.
$100,000.
Yep.
So you think about that.
Yep.
I mean, compared to $900.
That's what we said at the beginning.
Right.
We said at the very beginning.
It's just crazy.
Pretty good payment plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, $12 a month, that's weird. So I don't know, so it's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
But I would be in favor of if we pass a levy.
Promote it to go
I would
down.
say, I would be in favor of that.
Please keep it at 200. I would keep that under your hat, because I tell you what, the people around here will lose their mind. We're passing a levy and we're going to still pay to play. I go to Waterloo.
Now, you're suggesting it go back to,
He's saying that if
Right.
it passes, it goes back to 100.
Yeah.
That's what Brian said.
I mean, I would have no problem with that. But we need to, if you could
I would
check
just
what-
say revisit.
If you could check with them, I hate that word. If
I
you
know.
if you could check the way that wording was on that motion.
Yeah.
Mark, let's just include your take that one time.
okay.
All right. Another thing that I had, and I'll be quick about it, in the briefcase, there was a thing about back-to-school event. And with everything going on, I think we need to do something to try and promote the school, try and get communication out, but we've tried everything else and nothing seems to work. So, the football team is Tara's in charge of it. doing a meet the team night. This year, they're talking about doing all the teams, soccer team, both soccer teams, volleyball, and cross country. Is that right?
I have no idea. Get more
That
people
night?
involved. On the pep rally night?
Yeah.
I'm in charge of it, not one person has ever said.
Oh, someone told me that you were doing that. You were wanting them all included.
No, I've
It'd
never.
be nice, but
It'd be
we never
nice,
got
but
any of that
nobody has
information.
said one word to me at all.
Oh, okay. A couple people told me that that's what you were doing this year. So,
It's news to me, but
so we
yeah.
still could do it if we.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
The only
anyway.
there's a small problem with that. The money that's made at the gate for the pep rally goes for the team meals for the football team.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the fundraising part that's the
Okay,
issue.
I'm just making
I don't think
sure
it's
that,
that.
that's what that
Right.
goes for, or team meals.
Well, what came up was when we had the alumni game, we had a lot of, the teams were doing fundraising that day. They were doing booths that day, and they were trying to, they were saying how nice it was to have the community here, and there weren't a whole lot here, but the ones that were here seemed to have a great time, and they really liked it. So what they were saying was it'd be really nice if we could do something like that. The suggestion was the night before school started, since everybody's here anyway for open house, we'll just do it then. And then someone else said, boy, it'd be really nice if we just did it when the football team's doing it, because they're doing it up here this year. And I know a couple people said they thought that's, so maybe it was just rumor spread and that's how it goes, which is no surprise.
Well, it'd be a surprise to me on August 18th when everybody shows up.
But they talked about doing, like, soccer could do a fundraiser, like the soccer fundraiser, they could have a booth set up inside the football, just, so that's all they would be doing.
If this is
They
really
wouldn't
gonna
get the gate.
happen, it needs to be done here within the next
Right.
5 days.
But anyway,
because-
yeah, the suggestion was made. So if not, then we can change it. But they're actually,
Thought you
they're
were
saying,
busy now.
what it says is back-to-school event is a time to bring staff, students, parents, and community members together to reconnect after summer break. They're saying it's a good way to recap the accomplishments of the last year and get everybody getting everybody ready for the next school year. It says it's a great way to talk about the district's mission, the goals, and especially when your district is dealing with difficult issues such as cutbacks in staffing, programs, and budgets. It sets a positive tone and presents the dilemmas as opportunities, not challenges. So anyway, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, did they write this for Waterloo or what? So the whole purpose of it is that, a communication thing, and we've never done this before, so I thought, okay, we're trying to find ways to communicate, this might be a way to do it, so. I mean, not that we're trying to piggyback onto you, it was just a suggestion.
I like
that was
that
made.
suggestion, but I also like the suggestion of open house night.
I think open house might be the way to go.
Because you get all of the youth,
I think so too.
not that.
And the only reason I say about the
players,
football night is because someone said they thought that you were already thinking that way, so I didn't want to mess you up. So if you're not, then that's, but
You already did.
I threw it.
You're a genius, Tara.
See, we used to do open houses.
What's that?
What we used to do open houses is it started in the gymnasium. They introduced all the teachers, principal said a few words, just a brief 10-minute deal. The teachers were excused, so they could go to their classrooms after they introduced, and then there was a little, the principal would say a few things, and then they would excuse them like, great. Now, though, we just open it up. I think that myself, I think that we would be very wise to go back to open house starts for primary school at 7, and for the middle school at 7:30, and for the high school, whatever. Stagger it so that so you can get.
Why can't we just start all at the same time and be on the football field?
That'd just be a mess.
Unless it rained.
Yeah, and if it rains, yeah.
Well,
Good.
it actually, the one thing with that is, what I was going to say was, I've had a 6th grader and a 9th grader at the same time. You can't be two places at once. And I've tried to be two places at once because the 6th grade has their orientation, the 9th grade has their orientation. You can't be both places. So there are parents with several kids that they can't be both places. So staggering it actually is a good thing, not starting it
The
early.
staff is here already, the staff is
Right.
here, so that gets involved in staff.
But you could do it that way if you were guaranteed perfect weather. That's the only bad
Oh, we
thing.
live in Ohio.
I know. So, I mean, it's something that a lot of
We would
people,
build the case for the speaker system.
we'll put a roof on the stadium. Yeah, I think
Did you read, kind of justify the speaker system?
Oh.
Get everybody out here.
we can plan for it, but it's just something that I think that
I think we can
we need to get back to something like that. And when we have them in that room, we can communicate to them, which they say that we don't do well. And,
You just gotta capitalize on those moments.
right, and open house is one of those times that everybody,
75% of those people coming here to see what's going on.
right.
So,
Especially at the primary school level. I mean,
Exactly.
there are so many.
And that's where I believe that we're hurting, as far as votes for the levy, is in the primary school. That's my personal thoughts on that.
Keep in mind, you need to do something to hurt them all towards the cafeteria, because they'll stand in our classroom.
well, you just.
They do. When we used to all stand up on the stage, and by the way, we all hated having to sit up on the stage.
Well, that's the reason I suggested it.
Introduce. But anyway, we always fought to get to the back of the row, but anyway, they would be at your class for that, you know.
Well, you
would
just block
dismiss
out the
them. And
hallways.
Lots of times there was such a problem with people talking out in the hallways and stuff like that they were not listening to what the program was going on. So if there would be some way you can herd them all in there and not let them back into the classrooms until, whether we have to close the fire doors or whatever, but that always was a very consistent problem. And then you get to your classroom, and you couldn't even get through them to get to, you know. And
You
if
just
you had
have to
locked
really
door, they
rope
were,
off that area.
they were all in the classroom at that point.
I mean, you could do it.
There was a problem.
Very succinct, short message.
See what we can do.
Okay. Did you have this? It has all the information for
I'll
it.
take it. Just in
It's got all the
case.
notes there for it,
Okay.
so. All right. Does anybody else have anything in their other business? Okay, we're ready for the consent agenda.
Okay, we gotta do a couple things here before we take a vote. First, I didn't think about this ahead of time, and I should have. I want to remove item J, and we're gonna do that as a separate standalone item so that Steve doesn't have to abstain from the entire consent agenda.
Okay.
So we'll remove J and vote on it as a separate item. We are going to add in, I guess, we'll just make this replacement J. I'm doing the minutes, so we'll make this replacement J. And the replacement J is going to be this resolution. So I have a copy, and I gave you a copy of what either of these would look like. We're going to go with, on this, the ones that I've typed out here, the very short ones, it's the bottom one.
Yeah.
And it's going to read, recommend to approve the resolution determining to submit to the electors of the Waterloo Local School District the question of levying an additional tax to avoid an operating deficit pursuant to ORC 5705.194 to 5705.197 in the amount of $796,235 per year. That's the 5 mil amount. For a period of 5 years at the November 6th, 2012 election. And then just so you know, I gave you the detailed ones that we will have to fill out and submit to the auditor's office. It is it's the one that at the top says operating deficit at the end of line 3. And then where the gray areas are is where the dollar amount will be plugged in. I also want to note with this consent agenda that there are addendum items under the superintendent's business, items L through O will be added as part of the consent agenda when the vote is taken. And then the last thing I'd like to do, as quickly as I can, is just go through a few of these and give just a brief of why they're here for for people that are here with us tonight. Jill Jekyll, item A, has accepted a job in Stowe Monroe Falls, the middle school. She's one of the ones that was being talked about earlier. Doris Mills has decided to resign and retire as our cafeteria supervisor. So that kind of came out of the blue. We are working on seeing what we can do replacement-wise, possibly even talking to other districts as a shared service, if that makes sense. But we'll see where that goes. I'll keep you posted. Item C, that is the same stipend we've been paying Peggy Engelhardt to be our EMIS coordinator for at least the last 3 years. And I will tell you, many districts, like I've told you before, have full-time EMIS people. And for what she does with that and all of her other responsibilities, this really is a steal for Waterloo. D, the school fees, those are the same fees that were presented to you last year. As far as prices go, there's some classes that were eliminated this year, the fees no longer are there. But the ones that are listed are the same. Item E, our board attorney that we have through the consortium switched law firms as of, I think it was June 20th. She went from Eastman & Smith to Ketter Day, which is a little later in the agenda. We have an issue that we were using one of the other attorneys in her firm outside the scope of our consortium flat fee agreement on a consulting type basis. So I put this on here so that we could continue with that attorney if needed. I don't know that we will. Item F is 10 free hours of legal service. I used that this past year. I think I used a little less than 3 of it for second opinions on some issues that were very, very helpful. Item G, we are going to request waiver days this year, just a little differently, 1 full day and then 4 delayed start days. I'll get some details on my next update out to you on how we're going to do these, or I'd like to do these delayed start things, but we need board approval to submit the application to the ODE. Item H is our new attorney, or not our new attorney, but her new law firm. So we're still part of the Portage County Consortium. Just so you know, we pay a $20,000 a year flat fee to be part of that. Over the last 10 or 12 years in the district, I think the number, our average payment a year up until we joined the consortium was roughly $34,000 a year, I think. It had been as high in the 40s and as low as, I think, 19 something one year over that time. This past year, had we not been part of the consortium, we would have paid at least $40,000 for the legal services we received, and we paid that flat fee of 20, so it's well worth, that's on here to continue. Item I, we had a coach that was missed in the spring that we're looking for payment for baseball. Old J's removed, new J we talked about. Jerry Kirkbride, item K. We have a student that's moving from the preschool. He has identified learning disability. The IEP team has determined that his best placement is here, continuing at Waterloo in kindergarten. He requires a full-time aide. So Jerry Kirkbride currently is a media center library aide, half a day. She's put in, and according to the OPSI contract, I'm going to move her into that position for the student aide. The library aide position that she's leaving is the one that we will not be filling for next year. Okay, but the position she's going into with this student is new, but it's something we're required to do. And then items on the consent agenda, item L is Jim Conley. That's another one. He's been hired to teach social studies 10th grade and fairness. His position, as you know, has been reduced the last 2 years and then be able to be recalled at the last minute. We have some items we want to dispose of that we no longer need. Item N, the University of Akron has paid the amount that they're reimbursing the district for having student teachers out here. That ultimately gets passed through to the cooperating teacher. They've increased the amount, I believe. So you have that addendum, the amendment there. You had approved that agreement a few months ago. And then item O is our lease agreement. We've talked how the Portage Learning Centers of the Portage Industry Council will be moving Head Start, preschool, and a before and after school program into the district. The lease agreement is what we had our attorney draft up. Portage Industry Council has agreed to it. In addition to all the positive benefits of having them here on campus, we will also be bringing in $1,900 a month rent, 12 months a year, lease agreements for a period of 5 years. We do have the ability, if we ever need the space back, to give them, I think it's 90-day notice, and we can get out of the lease if we ever get to the point where we need that. And then as far as the treasurer's items, I think they're pretty straightforward. Todd didn't leave any details other than to point out that in E, because we were able to get back into the workers' comp savings group, we're going to be saving a projected $11,236 on our workers' comp figures for the upcoming year. So that's positive.
All right, can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? Any questions or comments? I would just say again, like, it's sad when to lose a couple young, good teachers and also ones that are willing to coach, because also finding coaches is hard too these days. So, any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, who's staring?
Yes.
Wait, we didn't do I need to put down here, I'm not good at this secretary thing, I'm sorry. We need a motion, don't we? Did we get a
We
motion?
already did.
Okay, I need to know.
I have a